And we're live, Fawn.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom.
We're gonna hand it to you, Fawn. We are live.
Oh, I thought we were gonna have the intro video.
Oh yeah, I thought
going.
you had a video intro.
Well, welcome everybody. I thought I had a couple minutes to prepare.
Right. Welcome
It's
back
cool.
to the Tattoo Collecting
Welcome.
Podcast, everybody.
I'm excited about today's show. We have Amy Nicholls of the Apprenticeship Diaries with us, which is one of the other shows on the Reinventing platform. Amy and I got to hang out at Jiminy Peak last week before last.
Oh, nice.
My time's all running together so bad. But yeah, something like that. I don't know. I'm still van lagged. But
yeah, that was awesome. That was in Massachusetts, right?
Yeah. But it was kind of cool to talk to like other content creators and to kind of like hear our motivations for like why we're spending all this time and money and like why it's important to us to like make these shows and bring this content to you. And it's just really cool to see how like similar our motivations are. And like all of it is really just like getting information out there to make like the tattoo community better, like all facets. Like we all have such similar goals. We want to make the experience better for other tattooers. We want to make the experience better for collectors. And, it's kind of nice to be able to have a platform that we've been given to run our mouths, like.
Yeah. I'm a little bummed I missed it, but that sounded like an awesome experience. That's really awesome.
Do you want to take a minute and introduce yourself and talk about a little bit of how you started making the Apprenticeship Diaries and why?
Sure. So my name is Amy Nicholls. I on the internet, I always put my middle initial in there. I don't know why, it just felt right. So it's Amy C. Nicholls. Like if you Google it, you'll have more search, options of me. But yes, I run a small private studio right now that's just mine. It's called Beyond the Pale Art Studio, which I hope to elevate at some point. I'm not really sure where yet, but I know that it is important for me to do my own thing at this point. I worked for somebody for 11 years and I think it ran its course where it needed to go. And I think it's hard for artists in general to, especially if they're like me, I've always tried to just keep scaling my craft and my passion. And I've leveraged having children and things like that, which were very, very clear choices for me that not a lot of people make. I knew that I had to cut a lot of fat in the things that I do for my life in order to pursue the passions that I want. So it's very atypical to the way a lot of people do things, but I think that it's very purposeful. It's kind of the reason why people go to art all the time, is to kind of experience something that is not typical and to take themselves outside of the rhythm of their lives normally for a lot of reasons. But I think, the reasons why I like to do it is for atonement, and it's for people to kind of step away and abstractly look at their life from a place of safety where everything's changed, and experience something that they've never really thought they could experience. And I think that there's something magical there within that. So as far as the Apprenticeship Diaries, one, I love to talk. So that of course is like, yeah, podcasting. But the biggest inspiration, I think, for the Apprenticeship Diaries was that I have a big thing about approaching my fear. And I think that's something that we all do. But I was afraid of public speaking. And so I first started out approaching that fear. I joined Toastmasters. Toastmasters is an international organization that is meant for leaders and public speakers, and they really help train you to kind of get over those fears in a very baby step kind of way, which was great. And I went from being paralyzed in front of people and having like a wobbly kind of voice and everything, which by the way is that fight flight kind of thing that you feel, that like kind of vibration and heat that you start feeling, that anxiety. It's like, you know, run away. It's very typical for people. The people that lack that innately are usually missing a chip, just normally, or they've just been drilled so long from childhood that they don't even realize how distinctly different that is. So I approached that fear, and I made a pact with myself to keep approaching neurotic fears, because I think that it keeps the crazy from being cyclical in my life and constantly progresses me. So it's confidence building. So I went from that to jujitsu. And in jujitsu, the reason why I did that was fight clubby. I was like, you know, what do I know about myself? I've never been in a physical altercation ever. So why not baby step that, see what I got going. I liked the fact that it was a non-striking martial art, and art being a part of the word, because it's a practice and it's not about defeat or power. It's about elevation. It's about learning about your body. And through that, I really kind of cued into, I knew about him, but I cued into Joe Rogan. And I fucking love him. I love what he explores. I love the fact that he brings on multi different flavors. And I also love the fact that he lets people talk. Like, it's long form conversation, which I feel like is more my style. So I just was like, I got to have a podcast. You know, I want to do this next. And the biggest thing that was a fear within that for me was the tech, and confronting social media in a way that I had never had to before. And then what would that mean to my art? What would that mean to what people saw about me as an entity, as a brand? What would it do to this very sacred space that I hold with my clients? And how would that affect it? But at first I wanted a tattoo podcast, but I couldn't think of anything safe in the tattoo world to really comment on, because it's precarious. We tend to eat our own for a lot of, I think, really good reasons, honestly, because good artists are people who I think have had a lot of pain and a lot of failure, and you know, pain that isn't transformed is transmitted. So it's a very easy thing for us to lash out when we feel threatened. And also, I think that this industry means so much, and what it has given to all of us means so much that we gatekeep this.
Yeah, we're protective of it.
Yes, and it's very, you know, it's very purposeful for us to do that. And so I wanted something that I felt, one, I could comment on from a place of some kind of authority, but also that I could kind of have a moving art piece within. It gave me allowances to be flawed. And at first I had a podcast about relationships just because I was newly single. And I did that with my girlfriend for a time, who used to have a good platform called Why I'm Single. And we turned it into a podcast. And it was like that joke before a public speaking engagement. Like it kind of loosened you up and was like, oh, this is no big deal. This is great. Like I can do this. And this is about relationships. And the actual spark for the podcast came when I did a guest spot with Evan Olin, and we were just dipping back to my time when I was apprenticing. And it just hit me in that moment where I was kind of talking relationships, and I was like, this is it. This is what I could comment on. I have had 4 apprenticeships in my life, 2 in hair, 2 in tattooing. I'm an endless student. At least that's how I see myself. I am very interested in being a better mentor as a person and person of authority, delegation, all of that. I want to be better at those kind of boundaries, because I care about cultivating passion and giving people wings and seeing where they can fly. And that's really what ignites me, with both within my art and within just life in general. I think that's my purpose. That's like my place here. The art is just it's a tool. It's a lead driver, because it's evocative and people love looking at things, and they kind of are naturally tantalized by something that we do kind of so innately, but it's really giving people the balls actually to just say fuck it and do what they want to do. And then I guess it's like a support space, because I'm far from, I mean, we're baby stepping right now. We're 2 years old. So like most toddlers, like we're fumble farting around. We're making a lot of mistakes, you know, like we're sometimes saying the wrong things and getting checked, but I mean, I don't think they're wrong. I think they're growing pains, and it's kind of, I'm really excited. I'm really excited about what it is. And for me, it's a moving art piece that kind of is a nice, safe supplemental space for people to realize that no matter what their dreams are, they can do them, and it's going to be rough, and they can come here and listen to how rough it is from people who've already done it or still stuck in it. And they can definitely watch me fumble fart around probably for years from now and be like, oh, and then later, if they've been following for a while, they'd be like, oh shit, man, I was there when it began, and they can have their hipster card. And that's what I look forward to.
Isn't it funny when you talk to somebody that's been following you for a little while, and like they'll talk to you about like the little incremental improvements and changes, and it's like, thanks for noticing. That was actually really hard to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, and it's also really great, you know, like you know, meeting with, like you said, other podcasters and content creators, or I'm in a space right now where I'm actually seeking mentorship from a person who has been a podcaster for a decade, and he's also really good at marketing and finance and business and branding and all of that stuff. And it's great to know that I'm on the right page and the right track too, like that. Yeah, I'm in the suck, just like I was in all the other instances but I'm not as
it's one of those things where like I feel like when you're of the personality type that like strives for growth and strives for learning, like as soon as you emerge out of the suck, as you call it, as soon as you like get out of the pit of despair, you're like, oh, look at this other pit that I could just stumble into because I don't feel like I'm good enough at this thing. So now I gotta like uphill battle all over again. It's almost like once there's a trick, or once there's a skill, or once there's a, like, we see it and it's like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. And then we've got to figure it out, like whatever that next step is. And then once we figure that out, it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to put that in my bag of trips. Now what other pit of despair can I fall into next?
Right. Where can I start from
like
the bottom
there's
again?
there's like nonstop, there's always something that like, this person's better than me at that. I need to figure their tricks out. So you just grind and grind and grind. And like the motivation is figuring out the new trick. The motivation is having that trick to use next time. You know, there's always that extra thing you're working towards.
I don't know if I will ever reach what he has reached, which is fine, because we're vastly different in what we aim to do, I think, in a lot of respects, this guy and I. But he was a former Marine, so one of their big phrases is embrace the suck while they're training. And that's why I kind of call it the suck, is because, you know, like it's that we got to break you down and build you back up again. And you know, you have to be willing to shed old skin and grow again. And it's painful, but like when you start kind of getting off on the journey and really finding that happiness in that journey. Sorry if you hear like that's my the other business that's next to me, that's their bell ringing, sorry. But yeah, I'm addicted to it. Like I'm addicted to that growth, which, you know, one of your first questions, you had a dossier that you gave me, which I really liked. My first tattoo kind of leads into this. I was very late bloomer. I'm a very late bloomer in every respect. I like it because I like to see myself as a fine wine. I hope to stay on this earth for a very long time, and I hope to get better and better as I go. That's the plan anyway. And I hope that once it reaches an end, I will know it is done. And it will be like, adios, guys, it's fine. But my first tattoo was done. I started tattooing way before I got tattooed, which is not common for most people. They start with tattoos and then they get the bug and they want to know more. I started with art, and then I went into tattooing because I wanted to do my art for a living. And then I started thinking about tattooing. And I knew so little, but I had a dream And it was back when I used to still dream. I'm getting it back. I actually, sorry to ramble in a million different ways, but I actually am.
You got plenty of time to ramble, girl.
Oh, yeah.
We got time.
Awesome. Awesome.
You said you like the long platform conversation. This is it, girl. This is it. Elaborate.
This is awesome. Well, I recently gave up so like a lot of substances that I think that were getting in the way of my REM sleep and my dreaming. One of them being pot, just because I would do that at night to stop the incessant like push of my mind. And it was a great going to bed thing. But I've done it for so long that it's really lost its magic for me, and the brain fog isn't something that I can work with anymore. I used to excel, and I really love sativas. I really love something that gets me like in my art. I still think that it helps within that space, but right now I don't know why my body is just like, it's just like it wants to be as sharp as it can be, and I'm not.
Let me ask you this: have you, before recently giving it up, did you always smoke weed?
No, well, I was a late bloomer in that too. I started smoking weed when I was 22 because a boyfriend was like, how can you judge this without trying it?
And then you were like, I actually love this.
Well, I mean,
fantastic.
No, actually, it's funny because I'm an addict of a lot of things. But I think I've always been in an AA program my whole life. Because my dad is a recovering alcoholic, and I think that I've always kind of understood that balance that you have to keep within substances, and making things like, again, testing your fears, cyclical events. So honestly, when it came to pot and weed, it was just available. I dated a lot of people who were into it, and it was just one of those things that I was like, I mean, this is available to me, and it's not a substance that keeps me from doing the things that I love to do, which is the biggest thing for me with something that I consider abusive, is that you're leveraging your passion for something that, it just doesn't make any sense. So if the passion isn't leveraged for the substance, then we're good, right? Like it might be like a supplemental aid, At this stage, though, for whatever reason, my body is just kind of rejecting it, and it's kind of getting in the way of the passion. So I'm just going, no, and I've stopped it, and I've really enjoyed it. But getting back, I mean, I'm dreaming again, which is cool, because I've missed that. And I knew I dreamt before, I just couldn't recall anything. So I also gave up coffee too, which I've switched to matcha, which is it's not anti-caffeine, but it gives me I feel like a cleaner kind of, I don't know how to explain it. Like there's more oxygen. It's an antioxidant, so it gives me more oxygen.
Yeah, totally.
Kinder on my belly. So, I mean, I'm getting older. I'm 40 now. So I feel like my body is just asking for much different things than it did when I was younger. And I'm just listening.
That's fair. And that's a really important thing. Like our bodies do change, our brains change, like the way that in reality, I've probably got severe undiagnosed ADHD, the way that I smoke weed and the way that it like slows me down and it helps me to focus on like 3 or 4 things instead of 34 things. But there, if the time comes where like I don't enjoy it the same, I don't, like it's important to listen to your body.
Right.
Like
if it's causing any sort of negative issues and stuff, it's definitely good to start paying attention to that. I mean, and then if you're ignoring that,
it's
just because of, like you said, like something that's like, it doesn't make any sense, because it's like, what is the substance really? And it's not really doing, if it's not helping you, then what is it doing?
Yeah, for me, it helps me. Like it helps me when I sit down with my clients. If my clients smoke, or even if they don't smoke, I invite them, I invite them to hang out with me while I smoke. But for me, it kind of like breaks down that wall for me. And it basically allows my energy and their energy to mesh. It allows me to just like let my guard down so that we can have that creative ebb and flow. And then the other thing I know about myself is I know that when I am not high, when I'm not smoking weed, I know that my imagination is very rigid. It's very structural. It's very much like an engineer. It's very, you know what I mean? Have you ever seen me just like stare at something and be like, It's because like the engineer side of me knows it could be better, or it could be safer, or it could be more sound, or it could be like, that like,
Yeah.
so when I'm not high at all, it's very, very, I think it's very boring, but it's very structural and it's very solid. But when I'm baked, you can see like, it's almost like I'm able to let you into like the kaleidoscope of colors that I get to daydream in.
Mhm.
So for me, I think it's helpful because I personally enjoy that side of my imagination so much more. And I think that's what my clients want to see. So, for me, I think it's
Mhm.
helpful in this period in my
I
life.
honestly relate to all
But
of it. Completely.
if I were designing a home, if I like, okay, let's say hypothetically, I find this brick house in the middle of the woods, this Victorian brick house that has all original woodwork that needs redone and da 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 da. So let's say I'm re-engineering parts of that house and like I'm hoisting up the floor and I'm going to re-engineer the joists and I'm going to be like straight as an arrow. I'm going to have my favorite coffee next to me and I'm going to be like dead focused and it's going to be a totally different side of my imagination. But that's not the side you want me to tattoo with. That's not the side that I'm going to make magic happen. I totally hear what you're saying. So like different parts of your life, you're going to have different purposes and you're going to utilize your body differently. You're going to utilize your brain differently. You're going to utilize your whole like life energy differently as you age and as you go through different periods of your life. So if it's something that isn't enhancing and it's not bringing you more joy and it's holding you back, cut it out and don't feel bad about cutting it out and don't feel bad about like explaining it to people.
I'm not,
You
I
said
don't,
it perfect. Your
yeah.
body needs different things as you age and as you get older.
Yeah, and I'm not totalitarian about it either. Like, I think that's an important part of understanding whatever, understanding substances and how to use them and not abuse them too, is that I'm not like, if I'm like in a space where like, I'm off and I'm connecting and stuff and somebody offers me a joint, I'll probably still smoke it. Like it's not like, that's fine because
But you're
that's,
not smoking 3 joints with coffee.
no, I'm not doing it on the regular basis that I did before because it's just not, I mean, as a thing, it's expensive, if you do it on that level, and it's only valuable if it is aiding. So, but like I said, it's always been available to me. So this particular time in my life, my boyfriend still smokes and he's like, what? Like, like it's kind of weird for him because it is such a social drug that he's like always feels bad not offering it to me. But at the same time, I'm like, no, asshole. I said no. No means no. Like, so I will ask if I need it. I will ask. But it's like it's still always available to me, which is kind of cool. And I don't expect him to stop because I'm stopping. Like I want him to do what works for him. And I do think it's same fun. I think it works for him the exact same way. It works for all of us that way. I mean, I think that's not all of us, but like some people get a lot of anxiety from it. But I don't know. I think as far as artists, I don't know if it's, I definitely, I've had my therapist tell me that ADD was the issue. It might be a slight bipolar kind of thing. For me, there's a lot of things. I'm a mental cacophony of crap, which is fine. I think it's better to lean in and just, admit it and tell people, and that way they know what you're coming with and they can be like, oh,
It's funny when you do kind of like let that wall down, and with these platforms that we're on, we're letting that wall down with just more than our clients. But when our clients start opening up to us, and then we kind of almost turn into the therapist, but it's still like the message 9 times out of 10 is like, oh, you're not alone. Like,
yeah.
And sometimes it's not our personal story. We could share another client's story, which is really helpful, but it's really cool to be like, oh no, I know somebody that's been through something like this and they came out of it and it's going to be rough, but it gets better.
Yeah.
There's all of that. Like there are so many just like real life struggles and mental struggles and, as like families grow and like children get older, and then children have their own problems, and then those problems then affect the parents. And, there's this whole like cycle of just crazy mental energies that we're around all the time. And it's such a funny thing to have the privilege, really, like
Well, artists
we
are connectors. We're
Yeah.
connectors. We practice connection all the time. I think that's our truth. That's what our gift to people is kind of stopping them for a second and then going, remember that this is beautiful. Look, like, and then it makes them stop for a second and go, holy crap, you're right. I am connected to this. I am a part of this. And I think that's what most people want is connection. They want to feel, I mean, we're social beings, humans, whether we thrive as a introvert or not. I think,
we all want to be part of a group.
Yeah, that's why the internet's so great, is because we can actually have our very safe space, but still have a very social life without, with a lot of the things that make us really, upset. I'm an extroverted introvert, so I just need a heavy recharge. That's my thing. I just need to be like, I got to wall in for a second. I can come out and perform and be really gregarious, but then I got to go back and be like, get the fuck out of my face.
It's a funny thing. It's when you can be like, go, 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 and you can be social, and you can like like tend to so many other people's like needs in social settings. I find that like when I have days off and days to myself, sometimes it's totally cool to not even leave my house. Like I'll be like, oh, I'm out of coffee creamer. Well, milk it is. Like I could leave, I could run to the store, but like there are days where like the solitude of like just me and my like animals and my surrounding is like you said, it's the perfect recharge. And like if I go too many days without having a day or two of like just recharge by myself, it really does start to wear. It starts to feel very heavy, but it's just because I'm carrying so many other energies and I haven't had a chance to like reground.
No, it's very true. And it causes me to lash out if it's kind of like being too charged with like, everybody says when you've been around a lot of tech, to go outside and put your feet in some grass because you need to get grounded. I feel like that's the same for me. Like I get too amped, and if somebody touches me, they're going to get shocked. Like if I'm in that space, like they're going to get zapped like you do when you rub your feet against the carpet and you're just walking around. You fucking touch me, man, I'm gonna zap you. If I'm in that spot. So I gotta ground, I gotta decompress, I gotta put my feet in some grass, and like you said, be around my animals, have the silence. But yeah, circling back, and it's funny that I say circle back, but the dream that I had, and getting back to all this, my first tattoo was big. It's about a dinner plate size of 7 snakes eating in themselves in a spiral. And for a long time, my brand was going to be Serpentine Images, because I'm an earth sign. I'm very into grounding. I'm very into balance. I'm very, I love this space on earth where we're just overwhelmed by contrast. And it's so cool where there's all these things that create form, and we have this magical kind of like simulation to play in. That's kind of how I see it. And I read once somewhere, and I don't remember where, but I think it informed the dream of just these snakes eating each other, that you fall 7 times before you reach grace, and that you die many times within your own lifetime. And I know I've clocked a few deaths of myself already, but that's what the tattoo was about. It was about shedding skin, eating of oneself, digesting the old, and becoming something new, and reaching higher levels of consciousness through this life. And it was a comment on this life itself. So and it was just a dream, and I was like, I automatically woke up, drew it. It's not done well. And it wasn't done by one person. It was actually done by 3, which I think lends to the beauty of it.
Did you deliberately have it started by 3 artists, or did it just kind of happen that way? Tell us that story. Because I like talking about the collaborative process and how like it can be deliberate, it can be accidental, but like there's magic in that collaboration.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you asked if there was regrets ever at one point in the list of things. I don't have regrets. I have lessons, and I have things that I've learned. So that piece, of course, the guy who started it, he was not an artist. I worked with him. He was the owner of a biker shop that I worked in, and I gave him the drawing, and he traced it. And I'm really thankful that he didn't finish it, because I know that he wouldn't have brought to it what it needed. And it still hasn't been realized to the full extent of what my artistic eye would want, honestly, but that's fine, because it's the first, and because it holds a very special place for me and for my tattoo knowledge. It's symbolic of what my life growing up in the tattoo industry was about, because I didn't realize it was a faux pas to have other people work on other people's work. And I didn't realize that it was just because I'm in the service industry. Before that, I was a hairstylist. So for me, it was always like, I didn't covet my clients. If I knew somebody could do a haircut or do a color, job better, I was like, go to them. I mean, if they set you on fire and make you happy, then that's where you should be. I want to do a good job for you. I want to service you well. And it's hair, for crying out loud. It'll grow back. So for me, going to a non-grow back kind of thing and not a permanent thing, it was for me very essential that you find yourself with the right person. And I never sought that out. At first, it was what was convenient, what I worked around, which I'm glad that I marked that time. And that was the base of the tattoo. Then I went to somebody that my boyfriend recommended at the time. He had a friend in the industry. This guy totally didn't tattoo in a style that I had a lot of care for at the time, but he was a good tattoo artist, solid tattoo artist. And he relined it and shaded it in a way that it kind of looked like a tattoo at that point. But what he had said,
it looked like a tattoo.
Yeah,
it's funny. Sometimes when people show me, I can't lie. My eyebrows give me away. Like sometimes the facial expression is too much truth that like my mouth can't catch up. So anyway, sometimes when people show me super proud, they'll be like, look at this. And I'll be like, it's a tattoo. That is a tattoo. And then like, you got to touch it because they're like showing you close up. It's like, they did a really good job getting that ink in there. You got to come up with compliments sometimes. Cause like, sometimes people don't know they have bad tattoos, right, and they're really proud of it. And
you can just hate their life.
Like you don't ever want to hurt somebody's feeling, or like it could be like something sentimental, or that's
a tattoo.
That's a tattoo. Yes, that is a tattoo. They did put ink in the skin, didn't they?
I mean, this podcast, I'm sure for you, kind of helps monitor that gut reaction in a lot of ways, because now you're learning the stories of why people collect, and it's not that knee-jerk reaction to just judge the art right away. You're like, okay, before I let that happen, let me ask a little bit more about this, right, and maybe then I'll get to meet this person.
The motivation has always been important to me. Like what sometimes my first question is, and you got to come up with a polite way to ask it, but like, why would you? But like, I'm really curious, right, but then what are the polite words to be like, why would you?
Well, it's funny because I think now that there's enough media out, people kind of give up the gold before you have to ask. And I find that there's, I'm sure you've gotten this, the trends, especially like first tattoos. It's always something like that honors your grandmother or honors your mom, or like somebody outside of you that is safe. Not mine, but like the other people that I've met, like their 18-year-old tattoo. It's
I just wanted to get something that I knew I'd never regret.
Right.
So I got John 3:16 and
Yep. And sometimes people offer, for me anyway, now people look at it and they're like, because they've seen my work and they're like, it's obviously better. They're like, I was dumb. I was 18. I just walked into some place. I didn't know anybody. And I was like, I did that too. Like I mean, not in the same way, but I kind of did. I did it late. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't care about who I got it done by, not in that sense. Like, but it is a tattoo. It means more than that, because it's a submittance to life. It's a submittance to a moment, and it's journaling, but on your body in this way that's really, really cool. And I think that's as an artist, I can appreciate it, and as a podcaster too, I can obviously appreciate it for that, because it's more about the story, and I think that's what people want to take place in, is like they want to have a story. And I think also, they're seeking a brand. I think all of us are. I mean, it's a literal brand, but they're trying to brand themselves. That's why, I don't know if it was you or Jason, or not Jason, Jake that said, Jake Meeks, that said, people feel more like themselves once they've gotten the tattoo. It's because, like they're able to actually confront the world the way that they actually feel. And the world is responding to them in the way that they actually want to be seen.
Yeah, that is something that as tattooers we need to remember, because for a lot of collectors, I don't want to say for every collector, but for a lot of collectors, it is their way of like harnessing control of their life. It is their way of like, this is my body and I'm doing with it what I please. Like whether they consciously or subconsciously realize it, it's a neat way for somebody to like feel powerful and control of their life, but also gain like confidence and more comfort in their own skin, all at the same time. All of these things happening all at once. And then like you could start talking about like the spiritual transformation on top of like taking control of your body and your situation. I don't know, we could jump down that rabbit hole for a while.
Well, and I think in the past, it's a lot of things, but I think as the allowance and the acceptance of it, I like the fact that you use, and I've used this for a while too, because I hated the ink master called people canvases. And I have been using the word collector for a very long time, probably as long as they started calling people canvases. I was like, they're not canvases. This is not an inanimate being that you get to just.
Well, so here's
Right.
the pet peeve with that. When you
good
call
point.
somebody a canvas, they are just a canvas. They're a mundane item. But like in reality, let's rewind. If we don't have collectors, we don't have tattooers. Like
Right.
You don't have rock star tattooers without people laying on the slab, giving you their trust, giving you their flesh, like submitting control, like going through all the motions that those of us, like you're pretty heavily tattooed. Jordan and I are both heavily tattooed. Like we know what it's like to just lay there and feel completely defeated, but still not get up off that table because we know we made a commitment. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to say it's disrespectful, but the collector should not be treated as a trite part of the equation. Without a collector, without an open mind and a good idea and the right like mental attitude and fortitude and stamina and like all the things that go into like what it takes to just get tattooed. Like let's overlook what it takes for an artist to do their job. You've got to have a person that's willing to go through the most pain they've ever endured in their life voluntarily and pay for it.
Well, and I think I always equivocate, and I'm sorry if I get a little raunchy or racy for our crowd, but I always equivocate it to sex. Because
it's incredibly intimate, and it's very like there's not
are
another.
you jerking off on someone? Is it a porno or is it a love scene? Like what are you wanting? Do you want to make a connection with somebody and share in this space where you're both enjoying each other and fully, or am I just taking my day out on you, or this thing, or this treating a person like a thing? I think that people can get very addicted to that. because there is that power dynamic within it. But that's what causes abuse always, is if there is not an equal power play within an exchange. And an abusive situation when somebody doesn't have equal say or equal power within it. So that's why I don't like the idea of deducing anyone to an inanimate object like
I
that.
fully agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I never put a lot of thought into it. I just thought it, like, if you would have asked me, I just it didn't sound right. It didn't sound very classy to call somebody that's, they've taken time out of their schedule. They've probably saved for months for this session, like, I worked in retail, and I wouldn't call even in retail, we called our customers guests. You know what I mean? Like, you're a guest in our store. We want our store to look nice and smell nice and be presented nice because you're our guest. We want you to feel comfortable. We want you to feel safe enough to try things on. We want you to feel safe enough to explore. So magnify that, like, outside of clothing to tattoos, like the level of comfort that we should be wanting to give our guests. You know what I mean? Like I like calling my clients because I think it's respectful, and like it demonstrates that there's like a mutual relationship between us. Like, when you say client, we're both committed, and I think it's respectful. And then there's a very fine line between client and acquaintance, and then there's a fine line between acquaintance and friend. But those are all, I would never call one of my clients a canvas. I feel like if somebody said, "Oh, Fawn's my canvas," like in the way that Ink Master does, like in the way that it's used there, I'd feel like I thought we were homies.
Right.
Like, I thought you saw me as a person.
Like, if they're in a space where I know that they're already criticizing their own body and that's what they're focused on, I might go, "You have a beautiful canvas to work on. What are you talking about? Like, this is, you're not seeing what I'm seeing. So let's step outside of that, because the whole point is to give you something that makes you feel better about this." And I'm telling you, in the things in my body that I don't like, when I tattoo them, I have so much joy in looking at them now. Now they're not what I felt prisoner to, because this is what I had and this is what I had to deal with and work with. Now I feel like I have something that is a comment, and I see the tattoos and I know that experience, and I value it, and I'm just so happy that I get to see that every day. So yeah, like that's really that's what I try to remind people. Like, I don't like my legs. I like that they walk, I like that they move, they're functional, but I don't like to look at them. But now I do. Now I want to show them off, because I have all these awesome art pieces on them that I want people to see and I want them to ask about, and it's cool.
Isn't that an amazing transformation that happened? I didn't expect it. So when I was younger, I was a multi-sport athlete as well as an art nerd, but so I was self-conscious because my legs were so muscly. Like, I felt like my legs looked very masculine. So I didn't like to wear shorts. Now I'm pretty curvy. I'm not an athlete anymore, so it doesn't bother me one way or the other. I'm cool with my shape now. But once
your legs.
once Adam and I started my leg sleeve, I couldn't wait for short season, and I couldn't wait because I knew that people weren't going to be criticizing what I saw as an imperfection, or I knew people weren't going to even see that what I saw as a flaw. They were going to see this artwork, which was so much more interesting. So it's funny, because generally I'm a pretty modest person, but when we've got tattoo competitions or something like that going on, or there's a tattoo event and somebody's like, "Fawn, show them such and such," all my clothes drop to the floor with a quickness. But I feel like anything that I would be self-conscious of, nobody's even looking at that, because they're looking at this beautiful artwork that I've worked so hard to collect from amazing artists who I patiently waited to collect from. But then when we talk about the modest factor, it's also when the artwork is that good, I know they're not looking at me in a sexual way. And if you are, kudos to you to look past this amazing work that is on me to be a creep.
Right.
But you're a special breed.
Right. Well, and the other thing too is that so I did, and at Jiminy, I did a foundational talk with a bunch of people that I'm thinking are either struggling for, you know, a reinvention of self, or trying to become tattoo artists. And one of the things that I showed was a lot of nude sketches that I did of myself. And I had somebody come up afterwards, because in that moment that I was speaking about it, she said that she had tears in her eyes because she has had eating disorder issues and just problems with that. And she said that it really spoke to her, because when I was talking about fundamentals and I was talking about drawing yourself naked, it's a very good exercise in loving yourself and worshiping your body, because you are partaking in art. You are seeing your body from an abstract view that is not sexual, just like you said, Fawn. It's not about the labeling that society puts on things. And by the way, society does that because sex sells. It's a very, and you know, anything that makes you feel lesser is something that's going to ask you to buy. So, you know, if you feel deficient, you're going to want it, and you're going to buy it, and you're going to seek it, and you're
Girl,
going to.
I have so many conspiracy theories about the beauty industry, like the beauty industry as a whole. We can go down different rabbit holes for like each branch of the beauty industry. Like, here, you know what? You feel bad about yourself. Let me sell you this poison that's going to temporarily make you feel good, but make the problem worse. So you feel even worse about yourself. So you keep buying this thing that's really causing the problem, that's making you feel bad about yourself. So you buy this thing that's causing the problem that makes you feel bad about yourself. And it just keeps, they change the brands a little bit, but the names change.
It's, you're probably right on the very up and up level, like on the very top tier level. I think that you're right. I think the actual practitioners are the frontline workers that are caught in the mix. And I think they're actually the victims just as much as they are the people that are parroting the information.
Well, a practitioner, like a good practitioner of any beauty industry, their goal should be just like ours as tattooers. Your client should feel better when they leave your hands than when they sat down. Like if they leave and they feel better about themselves, that's a job well done. That's a day well spent.
I'm not knocking on anybody's doors asking to tattoo them. They come to me. So as far as I'm concerned, you came to me and I'm facilitating what you're asking for. And to me, there's no violence in that. That's an exchange, and that's us healing and loving each other. You know?
However, I do take every opportunity that I have to educate my clients on natural skincare.
Yes.
If you can't eat it, if it has a label that says do not ingest, you probably shouldn't be smearing it on your skin. If it's not edible, your skin doesn't want it either. Just as a general rule of thum.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. I'm still working through a lot of those body dysmorphia issues, but I think that when you participate in art, and when you see things as an artist, and when you deduce things to shape, form, light, you know, you can embrace the curves and all of that stuff. You look at yourself differently. Mm-hmm. You analyze yourself differently, and you start to kind of, like you said, look at it from the conspiracy or theory kind of thing. Like, why do they want me to feel this way about myself? What's the angle? You know, what are they gaining out of this to make me feel this way? And you realize that you've been kind of prisoner and bought into a lot of stuff that really didn't serve you. Or if it did, it only did for a time, much like pot was for me for a moment. And now it's not serving me anymore. I don't feel bad because I spent time, you know, doing what I did. Or I'm not going to feel bad for buying into things that I buy into now. I'm just gonna let them serve me. And if I find out they don't, then I'm gonna move on. But now you have that critical thinking, because you're realizing that, oh, within this control, within this power dynamic, I only get 50%. Like I only get to choose and affect 50% of this dynamic. The rest is on the world and the other people I encounter. And all I can do with that is choose how I'm going to respond and how I'm going to act as a repercussion of these things, which is kind of interesting. And I'm learning this more and more. I think the biggest thing for me is always practicing boundaries and defending boundaries and making sure that they're good for me and good for everyone else, and exercising compassionate love, which it's hard. It's hard to do that because it's hard to tell people things that they don't want to hear, but they need to hear, especially if it's in the defense of yourself. So that's been a big practice of mine. But again, tattooing is huge with that, because you have to practice that boundary, because you are opening up someone's skin. It's an amazing responsibility to which you have to be very clear that this person understands, like, hey dude, don't roll around in dirt and don't let your dog lick your shit, and don't, like, you're gonna have to take some responsibility for this, man. Like, this isn't the same as like going into a convenience store and picking up a candy bar that has like a signature wrapper on it with all these, nut allergy kind of things. Like, you are entering into a subversive sect of society that you're embracing kind of a rush. You're going down a fucking Black Diamond Mountain and seeing if you can hang. Like, that's what you're doing. And I hope you realize that this is what you're doing. You need to be clear on this, because you can get really hurt.
So we just had Todd join us. Do you know Todd?
Hello.
Yeah.
Todd is a prolific tattoo collector. He just got some amazing work started by Megan Jean Morris while we were in Jiminy Peak last week.
Nice. I love her, dude. She's a brilliant artist. My God.
Yeah, she is.
That's awesome.
She's fun to be around. Yeah.
That's very
we did 2 days on my neck.
nice. Fantastic, man. You look like you've healed up really well. Like, it looks like
It's still I got some rough spots in the back, but
Yeah.
neck's hard. You move
yeah. Yeah, it is. It's the crease part. It sucks. It's just taking longer to heal.
Were you very stiff afterwards? Because I found, I'm like, oh my God, like, I didn't realize how much my head kind of bobbles and keeps everything loose. But when you have to like stay like this forever, you're like, holy shit. Like, turning to the side is now hard.
When I got back home, I text Megan and I'm going, boy, I feel like you strangled me.
Right? It's
Seriously.
crazy,
I mean, really, that's what it is. I try to tell people, I've heard horror stories about neck and that, and to be honest with you, it wasn't that bad. Really wasn't. But healing it is like a knee ditch, especially when you bend it, the crease area in it. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. That's what I feel like. These areas that are mobile, the heel is the worst part of it. I mean, I feel like once you get in the knee, it's like the armpit. I mean, I only have something started there, but people are like, oh my God, it's so bad. I was like, it's bad approaching, but it really doesn't get any worse unless
that's what I've been telling people too.
Yeah.
It like that this little pancake right next to the armpit. Like, if you can get that, it doesn't get worse. It doesn't get worse than that spot. Like, that sucks. But if you've already gotten your sleeve done and that spot was tattooed, don't be afraid of your armpits. Yikes. Like, I just tell people,
wow, you're not making me want to get it done.
This chunk of the ribs,
don't want to get your
this chunk of the
tattooed.
ribs was exhausting.
Oh, that's
but like that was the part of it. It was just like the long day on the upper ribs. Like, the armpit part sucked, the upper inner arm sucked. But if you can get this little pancake right there, that like edge of the pectoral, if you can get that guy, you can get your armpit. Don't be afraid of it. I'm not saying it's going to be a fun day. I'm not saying it'll be pleasant, but I'm just saying, don't be afraid of it. If you can do one, you can do the other.
I mean, dude, if you want anything, I just like my podcast, man, like, you got to embrace the suck. You've got to show you do. That's what that proverbial like sacrifice is always about. It's like
reminding yourself that it'll be worth it.
Yeah, you got to walk through the fire, man, to get to the other side. It's like that walking across the hot coals to like be vetted and into the tribe, like it's that, I think that's I mean, that's why when people are like, oh, does it hurt? I'm like, do you realize that that is not even a question? Like, for us, like, for me,
No.
I mean, I want a tattoo. Right. I don't.
It's relative. It's just part of the journey.
But we just don't think about it. Like, it's just not the way we see it. We don't
but the
go,
pain
it's
doesn't last
hurt
forever. So that's where it's going to be worth it. The pain is just a temporary sacrifice that we're making. And then like that growth, that inner, like, I want to get up off the table. I want to go away. This is the worst thing. I bet this was a dumb idea. Why do I do this? Like just submitting and sitting there through that when like, I don't need to be here. I don't need to be doing this. Like I could be doing a million other things right now besides getting jabbed over and over and over again. Like but there's that thing that just makes us submit and sit there. And while we do that, it's like, you don't sit down for a 6 or 8 hour tattoo session and walk away a weaker person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't walk away mentally weaker after submitting to something like that.
Well, I think it's
No,
also, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Ty.
No, it's all right. What I was gonna say is, you know, like I booked 2 days on my neck. I mean, most people wouldn't even dare do that. So, you know, I mean, when I go into them hardcore. I mean, I expect a long session. I mean, my average is 10 hours.
Right.
So,
well, you're dedicated too. Like you're here on this podcast when you're not getting tattooed. You're a collector not only of tattoos, but you obviously really love being around artists and communing with artists. And I think that's, you know, kind of goes back to what Fawn was saying is like, you know, if you let yourself get in your head about, God, I could be doing all this other stuff, you've already defeated the moment. You're paying for full service and you're already robbing yourself from the experience because you're not even committed to being there. So like if you just yield and you sit and you commune with this artist and you experience this moment that is so rare and get to meet a person who, like Fawn said earlier, gets to meet so many people of so many different ilks and has talked long form with so many different stories. And you have access to a beautiful moment that you're not fully buying into, and you're really robbing yourself. So that's it. That's why it is therapy, I think, is because, you know, it's like anything that you submit yourself to, that, like working out, like going to therapy, you know, like it might be hard to get there, but once I'm there and once I've done it, I just think you're never going to walk away going like, oh, that was a fucked up use of my time.
no, absolutely, you know, just to
Maybe
say
that's
about
the sick part.
Yeah, well, like the 2 days with Megan, we were at Ink Magazine and we had a blast. I mean, Jada Moon was there, Megan's boyfriend was there, and you know, a lot of shenanigans went on there.
Sounds amazing.
You know, the most important thing is taking away the experience of what you get and just surviving it and realizing I survived it, you know.
Right.
Yeah. No, I know. And I feel like I attract, I think tattooing in general attracts and heals a lot of people for many different ilk, but a lot of people that I get are people who have chronic pain. And I feel like this space, because I think we are so clean and because we are so, you know, we commune with the body and opening the body all the time. But it's funny because I almost feel like they're so used to carrying pain that when they experience pain that is about themselves and then it's about self awareness and indulgence and what they get to walk out in the world with, it all goes away. It's funny. It's like puts a pin in it to be not to be funny about it, but it does. And a lot of my clients that have chronic pain, it's weird because you never know, because when they're here in this space, it's when they're the most turned up and energetic, and they're like, this is definitely my therapy, you know, like everything stops.
Well, you've been tattooed, you know what it's like the day of, like, let's set aside being a tattooer, like on the day that you're about to get tattooed, you got all these excited feelings. More than likely it's an artist that you look up to and want to learn from. So like you've got those little tremors and butterflies and like, you know, I want to get the most out of the situation. And then you've got the like, what's it going to feel like? Am I going to have a good session? Am I going to settle into it? Am I going to be able to sit for the whole day? Is this going to be one of the easier sessions? Is this going to be a rough session? So you've got all of this like excitement and apprehension, and like, you know, all artists have different rituals, but like, and all collectors have their own rituals, but like there's that like charge the day of when you're getting tattooed, and you like wake up earlier and you don't sleep right because you know you're going to be tattooed the next day, and like
Mhm.
all of those jitters happen, and you're like, should I have a big breakfast? Should I not have a big breakfast? I feel like I should have a big breakfast. You know what? I'm just going to get coffee and gummy worms.
I think that you might be more mature in your collecting than I have been, Fawn, just because not I don't know, but I've actually experienced more tattoo artists that I really saw a lot in, but I don't think that they kind of understood why I saw it. And you know, like they would explain to me why they're doing things the way they're doing it. And I would just be like, dude, I fucking love everything that you do. You don't have to explain this. Or I collect pieces that I know this person will be something amazing one day. Like this is their first. Like I have a first from a girl that it's a cherished thing. It's of a tooth, like a little bloody tooth, that I just absolutely love it. And it's funny because it's also within another tattoo of a guy that I don't think he understood why I love his work so much too. His name's Josh Heckert. But he
what was his name? It cut out just a little bit.
Sorry, it's Josh Heckert.
Okay.
And it was he was a guest artist, and he was 3 years into his experience, and really awesome dude, does amazing work. Very traditional, but he had this one of open scissors with like an all-seeing eye and a barber pole, and I think it was some other thing that he had sticking out that I was like, if we can just remove that and put a lipstick there, that would be great. Or no, I think the lipstick was there, and I asked for the barber pole. I said, I want a salutatory thing for leaving the hair industry and going into the tattoo industry. So I want a tattoo for it. So the tooth is right in between the scissors. Like that's where I chose to put it for hers. And her name is Amber Ramirez, which she's phenomenal and doing crazy work now. But I have her first. And it's funny because it all kind of goes together because old school barbers used to be barber surgeons, and one of the things they used to do was teeth pullings. And also I've had many dreams about my teeth falling out and pulling my teeth out, and that apparently is a very characteristic psychological dream for change, and how you deal with your teeth coming out is how you're going to kind of deal with the change. So that's why I wanted that. And so for me, I haven't yet, and I want to start getting tattooed. I'm feeling the calling to get tattooed by people that I revere and that I very much so have those kind of anxieties for. But I think the thing that kept me from it was this thought about the apprenticeship diaries. It's been in there a lot longer than anything, is that the only difference between me and the people that I aspire to become like is time and how much I want to get out of my way.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I started looking at one of the other questions you had was like somebody that you think somebody should know about. And I think Jeff Gogwe was the biggest influence for me in my career growing up as a staple and as a person and a creative and just everything. Like I really love that man. Like love him in every way, like hearing him, seeing him work, everything about him just is amazing. And I actually asked him to do my chest before I had Jake Kirk do it. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, Gogwe was at the point where he was doing like 2 full bodies. Mm-hmm. Like he was in that mode. I don't think he's in that mode anymore, but he was in the mode of like doing 2 huge body pieces that fit together, like couples that would hit back pieces for each, like together. And then I was just giving him my chest, and I thought about the idea, and I didn't even think that I had realized the idea yet, like I had come to that idea yet. And I still would like to be tattooed by Jeff at some point, just because I love him so much. But what I started thinking about was like, I'm sitting here with Jeff Gogwe, and I'm commuting with all these badass artists. And, he's talking about what he was before he was standing on the stage and what he did to get here. And I'm actually doing that right now. Mm-hmm. So
That's a nice thing that I like to remind myself of. It's like
Yeah.
a lot of the people that I really look up to, we're on very similar paths. They're just further along the path. So I don't know. I feel like some people have, like, they'll get in their own way and they'll get spiteful that this person has what they wish they had. Where, like, I look at the people that I look up to and it's like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. You know, like, they're just people also. You know what I mean? Like, they have the same two hands, they're given the same 24 hours. You know what I mean? Like, when it comes down to it, like, once we've gotten so far along in our craft and we've kind of like carved out our own little lane in our area, like, once we've already established that, like, we've all been given the same gifts at that point. Like, we all have the same raw materials. So at that point, it's, what do we want to do with it? You know, I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by people like Marty Holcomb and Derb Morrison, like, in my close personal circle. Like, on a daily basis, I see these two people.
I like to say you're deserving. I think we're just given things. I think we earn them in ways that we don't give ourselves enough credit for, honestly.
Yeah, well, it's my point is these are people that have done so much in their careers, and they've done different things, but they've done what they wanted to do. And just to see them and know that, like, they're just normal people. You know, they're just normal guys, but they're very driven. Derb especially, like, he is very task oriented, very list driven, and he keeps very good people working around him that can, like, do things as if he would want them done. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of us are like, how would Derb want this done? And then, you know,
but even still, they still roll in kind of like, so to take it outside of tattooing, so I always look at, like, celebrity, and I look at people like, you know, Seth Rogen, for example. He does a lot of films with similar people, like, you know, like, they kind of roll in packs, these people, creative. And so that's what I saw with Jeff Gogwe too. He was rolling with a pack of, like, the cool kids club. He was a normal person, like, he is a normal person, but he even would admit that he didn't understand why people would see him the way that they did, even though he was so dope and so awesome. You know, I think that's really the true essence of cool, is that you don't even realize that what you're doing is so awesome and inspiring. You're just doing it. You're just living your truth. And kind of what made me switch my focus, and not that I don't want to get tattooed by him, I still do. It was just that, like, I feel like I needed more time to get to Jeff Gogwe status. And also, I wanted it to be natural. I didn't want to have to ask. I wanted it to kind of roll in. I wanted it to be that kind of Seth Rogen creative space where we're kind of sharing, which is why I decided to go with a friend that I had met while I was getting my piece from Josh Heckert, Jake Kirk. And he gave me my first piece of advice about my work. And he told me something I really needed to hear at my 3-year mark, which was slow the fuck down. And
yes, I say that in every aspect. It will not hurt any part. I'm going to let you continue and elaborate, but it will not hurt any part of your tattooing to slow it down. Slow your machine, slow your hand, slow your breathing, relax, slow down. And it's going to be amazing if you take this advice. If you just slow it down, you will work so much more efficiently and quickly just by slowing down.
Oh, exactly. Well, and that's why I think he earned my chest. Like, when I started thinking about my chest and what I really should have, the idea that I gave Jeff Gogwe was like something that I felt like I need to arrive to. It was a commentary on finding your true love. It was about finding a mate for life. And I think I found that now. But once we get married will be when I think honor that piece of my journey. It was too preemptive. So the whole thing was like, no, bitch, you got to slow the fuck down. You're not at Gogwe yet. You're not at this piece yet. And you do want your chest done. But, you know, Gogwe is wanting big work right now. Your chest is not really that big. It's like this, you know, unless you're going full boobs and torso, it's really not that big. So I was like, but it is a huge piece. It is a huge mark. And it's something that the world sees and needs to confront. And so that's why I picked Jake, was because Jake gave me that slow the fuck down piece of advice that I needed at that point. And also I really love his work. I really love the way he approaches everything. I love his attitude, his being, his whole personality. I love his shop. And also he works slow, which he, like I said, he constantly defends, but I'm like, dude, I'm not mad that you're not wrecking my day with this tattoo. Like, I don't give a fuck. I'll drive here 5 or 6 different times. Like, I don't need it to be like a kill me session. This is great. You know, like that's awesome. And he was just, okay. Like, I think he was just so grateful that I was like willing to buy into the journey, and I was willing to pace it at a pace that didn't make him compromise his integrity or rush him, and that he could make decisions as they came to him. Because that's the thing, is that I want to yield myself like I ask my clients to yield themselves to the creative process. I want them to take a journey. I want them to relax. I want them to slow down. I want them to just submit themselves to this kind of lesson and control. It's the same if you do like an acid trip or a mushroom trip. It's like you get slapped. It's true, right, Todd? It's true. It's like,
it's funny you mentioned that, because that's what my neck is, peyote and magic mushrooms.
Yeah, no,
that's what my neck tattoos are.
That's awesome.
I got a sheet of acid on the back of my back.
Yep. There you go. But that's the thing, right? Because those are lessons in control. And I, as a control freak, I found those substances very, very yielding for me, because every time I do it, first of all, I'm such an asshole. I go, oh, this is going to be great. I don't know why. You never set yourself up for that. Like, you never do that. You just go into be like, I'm going to take a trip. I'm going to prepare myself for the trip. And then I'm going to let the trip happen. And I'm going to experience this step outside of the norm. You don't frame it before you fucking have made the art. You don't put a frame around it. You make the art. You do the journey. Then you put the frame on it. Then you can comment. You don't do that first. So
it's funny as you talk about being a control freak with psychedelics. Like, I've got all these rules. Like, I enjoy psychedelics, but I haven't done any in so long. I'm overdue. That's the thing. I'm overdue. But like, I've got to like, okay, everything in my life has got to be going good. I got to be having like a good solid week, like mentally and like stress level wise. And then there's like okay, we got to plan a hike. Okay, where we're going to go hike? We got to have our favorite hike, but then we got to have a babysitter, because like I won't drive when I'm in an altered state. Like I value my life and I value strangers' lives, so I don't drive altered. So you got to have a babysitter that's down to like babysit as I play in the woods with like this child, like looking at each and every little snail and butterfly and rock, and like, oh, look at the mist coming through the trees. Yeah. And they're like, Fawn, there's no mist. It's like, but look at the rays.
Look at the rays. But it's like every other trip, right? Like, nobody wants a bad trip. Nobody goes to Italy saying like, oh, I'm going to Italy because I want to have a fucked up time. No, you go being like, I want to experience Italy. You set an intention, and then you make a plan. You book the flights. You're not driving the fucking plane. So that's your babysitter. That's your professional that's going to take you there, and it's going to make sure you get there and that you're not compromised, because you don't know how to fly a fucking plane. If you
not
do,
compromised,
right?
Altered and not compromised. Those are words of the hour.
Exactly. But within being a traveler, if you don't have this idea that there are going to be things that happen that are outside of your control or your norm, and you don't embrace that and love that, then why the fuck are you going anywhere? Like, you're not in that mode. So
maybe that's why I enjoy traveling so much, is because like as much of a control freak as I kind of am in my life, like I'm a very laid back kind of control freak. I like to keep things simple, so that like, but when you travel, you do have to just roll with the punches, and you've got to have the mindset, like, even if something is off schedule or something, even if plans get altered, it's still a vacation. It's still this. It's like you've got to have that mindset that like no matter what, I'm gonna roll with the punches and I'm not gonna have a chip on my shoulder. If I'm running late, if I get there late, I get there late, but I'm gonna get there alive. It's fine. Like, like if you've got the mindset of like, I'm going to rush, I'm going to grind, I'm going to drive myself until I'm sick, and then I'm going to have a chip on my shoulder for the next 3 days. And like, just, I don't know, maybe that's the thing that like keeps me wanting to be a tumbleweed, is because I gotta have a plan, I gotta have a destination, and I gotta have a time to be back. But like outside of that, be prepared to just roll with it. And like, sometimes the coolest things that I find are when I like miss my exit for the third time and I'm like making the third U-turn, but then it's like, oh, look at this. Yeah. Let's go ahead and stretch out here. And you find the unexpected treasures. We found like a really cool campground that every time I go out west, it's in Oklahoma. It's called Red Rocks, but it's just the coolest little campground. I love it. Like to put your to set up camp like back in a canyon, and then like, to take amanitas that you found and put them on a spicy chicken sandwich and then eat them next to the pond. It's a pretty fantastic campground to like stumble upon.
When you said we too, and that's the other thing, is that you can't just travel with anyone, like that could be the compromise of your entire time too. You have to travel with good people to take journeys with too. And you got to know the journey you're taking and who should come with you and who shouldn't.
A good travel buddy.
Yes. It's critical. And same thing,
especially if you're a road tripper, and like you want to fly with decent people too, because people can get really impatient when they're flying, and you can see the ugliest side of your homies. But when you're trapped in a vehicle with people, you see the best and worst of each other too. So like your travel buddies got to be like rock solid, same goals, same missions.
I'm a time person, like no matter what. Even when I was tripping balls at an EDM festival, my boyfriend was like, it was wonderful, it was great. We're walking around, we're having a great time, but it was me at some point that I was I hadn't eaten anything for like this whole time, and we have been walking so much that I have a knee that's like I don't like to put it out in the world that it's like compromised, because I think I can heal it. But it's I'm older, I'm 40, and this joint is not it's not what it used to be. So I was like, babe, like, can we stop for a second? Like, I think we need to stop, because like I'm very aware of time, because time is about, for me, being respectful to other people. And that is something that like no matter if I'm anything, time is a huge thing for me, of where I will not, no matter what state I'm in, I think really leverage it. It's a problem, I think, for me. But that's where that's when I'll get nasty with people. Is like, hey, motherfuckers, we gotta go. We got deadlines. The fuck are you doing? Get up. Like, that's when I'll be like, we need to go. We need to stop. We need to do this. That's when my control freak kind of comes in. And my boyfriend was like, no, I want to move around. But fortunately, within the EDM festival example, the actual event was closing, and we got to see the final act right by the exit. So by the time it was over, we didn't have to walk through this entire cacophony of people and crowd. So it was actually perfect timing, which, generally speaking, I'll give myself this little bit of a nod, I usually have good timing. So I do feel like I am a good Sherpa in lieu of time, because I do think that I have like more of a general vein of appropriateness when it comes to that. Don't know if that's too lofty of me to say, but just for today example, I booked the fuck out of this day. Like, I really did. I was supposed to, at 3:30 today, my apprentice was going to come. He was going to tattoo today. I was going to observe him. And then at the same time, like at 6, I was fairly certain he wasn't going to be finished by then. But then I had this whole like business thing that I was going to do with my friend Lynette, where she was going to coach me about a business idea that I had. And I was like, you should be fine, like me being there but not really being there. And he was like, yeah, sure, dude. And I was like, it'll be fine, you'll be great. but it didn't happen because I just kind of had this idea that it was going to be fine. And it did, because he had a coworker that had COVID and he had to cancel the whole fucking thing. And I was like, oh, cool. I don't have to be anywhere until 6 p.m. now. And I can completely dedicate myself to this business idea that I wanted to communicate with my friend, and no worries.
Sometimes universe is on your side. That's the
Yeah.
moral of the story. Sometimes
Yeah.
universe wants everything to work out, and
I think the universe is always on your side.
It
I think
is.
the universe gives you 100%. That's why I call it deserving. I think you get what you deserve. I think you get 100% what you ask for. You just might not know what you're asking for, and that's the problem. People always think the grass is greener on another side. People always think that they want something that they have no idea what they're calling to themselves, and then when they get it, they get fucked in the ass, and then they're like, oh shit, I didn't know
I wanted it, but no, I didn't know it came with this.
Jesus Christ, this is awful. And but I think the universe is poetically perfect in everything that we get from it. I find it all just amazingly beautiful. So for me, the universe is just it's incredible. I'm so glad I can't even conceive to know everything that works, but it's pretty awesome. Yeah. But no, I think it delivers us exactly what we deserve and exactly what we're calling to ourselves, which is why, I think that's why all of us are willing to take the time, why that whole thing of slow the fuck down is fine, because we know that time is not real. It's a concept in our mind, and it's about our expectations that are completely, they're based on what? The universe will dictate the time. It will give you what you want, but you're not going to get it when you want it. You're going to get it when you
Isn't
deserve
that
it.
a funny lesson that you just learn over and over again? You want it now, but life's biggest lessons are you'll get it in time. It's not your time. It's not, you know what I mean? You got to keep grinding. It's not your turn yet. Whatever those life goals are, whatever those things that your work, the suck, when you're in the suck, you just gotta be there for a little while before you deserve whatever you're working towards. There's
That's earning your tattoo too.
Earning.
That's what they mean when they say you have to earn it.
Yeah, it only looks easy. You know what I mean? And when we talk about when we walk through a convention and we see people just laying there and they look like they're in such a peaceful meditative state, while their armpit and sternum are being drilled away on while another person's on their knee pit, and they look peaceful, and you hear people asking oh, how can they do it? Da, 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 da. But really, when you've been tattooed like that, that they're having an out of body experience
Right.
and they're not in that corpse right now.
Yep.
Yes.
That's how, but it's not as peaceful as it looks. It's actually the opposite end of the spectrum, and that person has submitted and they're just tolerating the torture basically because they want to achieve this thing and that's the only way you can achieve it. You can't get a good tattoo without sitting there and going through the hours that it takes to achieve the good tattoo. There's no shortcut to it. As a collector, there's no shortcut to achieving it. And as an artist, there's no shortcut to then putting the hours in and doing it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and it's funny because the one thing that you gave me at Jiminy that I thought was awesome and that I do want to experiment with my clients is Jeff Gogwe's piece about where he talks about his out of body experience getting tattooed, which I remember he said it face to face to me. He was like, yeah, when my ass was being tattooed,
it's awful.
I wasn't there. I was not there.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
I do not recommend. I mean, I recommend it. It's worth it. Do it. Don't stop your back piece at your butt cheeks. Just keep going. Keep collecting. It's nice real estate.
Yep. Yep. It doesn't look right when you for me anyway. I did my boss's back piece like that. We just cut it off at his pant line. I'm really sad that we did that, or that I did that. made that choice, but I wasn't ready to see my boss's butt cheek. I think at that point, I was very new still in my thing, and I don't know if he was ready for it either. And we stopped it there. But in truth, when you are naked, which I think that, again, seeing yourself naked and marking yourself naked as a collector, look at your body and look at your tattoos and how they look when you're naked. Because the one thing that I get a lot from people who are trying to get tattoos or who are new and getting them, they're like, oh, I want this to look really good when my bikini's on. I'm like, well, is your bikini always going to be on? Like that's not a good, I think, reason to get a tattoo any one way, because it's stifling. It adds an arbitrary line that an artist should not obey. They're looking at
the
your body.
flow with the body is a really important thing, because like if the tattoos flow gracefully with the body, whether the person starts collecting numerous tattoos or whether they have a few, when they're placed gracefully with the body, then you can start considering the whole body as an arrangement. Yeah. Actually, I just had a consultation recently, and we were talking about how Adrian Lee does his consultations, how they do them at his studio. They're doing like these huge abstract body suits, but when they sit down with their clients, they actually have like a template of the human body, and they're like, okay, what are you comfortable being tattooed? Like overall, what is the arrangement you imagine on your body? What are you not comfortable having tattooed? So then they can establish, like, is this going to be a full body suit? Is this going to be from the knees to the shoulders? Are we going to incorporate full sleeves, 3/4 length sleeves, neck? Like, you establish that from the beginning. And then from there, you can start building these large multi-panel body pieces. And it gives like, if you, right from the beginning, if you know how much a person is potentially willing to get tattooed, then you can consider that whole arrangement. Like, you might only be doing a half sleeve, but if you know they're eventually going to do their chest or their back, you can make decisions that will allow this piece to flow into the next.
Yep. Well, and also I've seen kind of like that in a kamikaze way, which is really cool. I was at a Pet Paradise gathering, and Ivana, I forget her last name, but she's known by Ivana Tattoos. It's a name I would butcher anyway, her last name, pretty sure. But she was there with her client, and her whole process was very interesting. Her client gives her what they want, and she's so Ivana that there is no other way to work. You buy into her. You buy into her process. You have to submit to it. And while she was working, and this is interesting, it was a forearm piece. So we're not talking like full body coverage or anything like that. Like, this obviously is going to be something that you could stand there naked and be like, okay, why am I looking at you naked? It's just a forearm tattoo. I don't have to see your whole body to see this. But the thing about this piece, as Ivana was working on it, was that she had this other piece lower on her wrist. And the Ivana piece that she was putting on her couldn't be stopped because of this lower piece. And the girl was like, I don't want you to go into this other piece. And Ivana just looked at her with her beautiful fucking eyes. Like, you can fall into Ivana's eyes. That's her sale. Like that's her ability to sell. She like looks into your soul and is like, you're mine now, and you will do what I say. And she's like,
she casts a spell, and
oh my
that's
God.
it.
Well, she just looked at her, and she was just, very calmly, very gracefully, very respectfully said, it has to. And all she was talking about was a line that like ran through the other one. But it would not have been as good a tattoo had she not invaded the other one. It would have taken so much away from the way her tattoo looked had she not just put this line and allowed it to go. And it added to the other tattoo as well. It made it a full piece.
That's something that I really consider. I've got a few clients right now where I'm like reworking entire sleeves. I haven't really advertised or marketed that I'm doing this, but I'm kind of using them as tools so that I can show, like, I can take all of our photos and show the process all the way through. But one of the things is, sometimes a person may have like a patchwork collection, and this piece may be good. This piece may have been good 20 years ago. This piece may be great. This piece may be awful, but has sentimental value. So there's kind of an art to tactfully working with other people's work and not bastardizing it. Like sometimes I need to make a choice. Like, do I need to enhance this just because this is what the body part needs? Like this needs to flow into the work that I'm doing, and it needs to be seamless because that's what it needs to be. Like,
Right.
do I necessarily have to change it? No, but I might need to modernize it. I might need to put some of my colors into it. I might need to go like, you know, more colors than grassy green exist now. So I can use like real greens.
Yep.
Like things like that, where like it like forces me to collaborate with what already exists, but like to know what to work over and to what to work around. You know what I mean? What to blast over and what to incorporate. There's this very tactful. I hope that I am tactful about it, but like sometimes it just needs done for the sake of the whole overall arrangement of the tattoos together. You know what I mean? It's not about destroying another tattoo. It's about making this whole limb cohesive and more beautiful and more strong together. You know what I mean? And that's
yeah,
where
totally.
like when you trust an artist enough to rework something or to even work near something, then you got to trust them. Just trust them, you
Yes.
know. And that's part of the surrender. Like aside from the pain, there's the surrender factor to like, this person cares about me, this person cares about my collection.
You there? Yeah, you froze a little bit.
They
Oh, there you go.
There they are. But I got something to say though.
tattoos.
Is well, there she is.
What up?
No, but you're
Back?
right. I think she's back. No, she's frozen.
Am I pros?
Yeah, you keep freezing off and on. But Todd
Yeah.
has something to add.
Okay.
Well, yeah, because you know you're talking about invading other people's tattoos and that, right?
Mhm.
So, when I was getting, you know, it's patchwork, a lot of it in that, and it wasn't real cohesive when I first started. I mean, my sleeves are, but other than that, the other pieces on my legs, they weren't at to begin with. So I had Megan do back of my leg, and she went into Randy's piece, and it was like I sort of wasn't too thrilled about it because you know that's Randy's, you know, it's Randy Englehart. So I even
I can
texted
just
Randy.
imagine you being like, I don't know. And you probably were very vocal about
Well,
it.
I was more worried about Randy's reaction, I guess, than my own reaction. It's like, dude, this chick went into your work. You okay with that?
Be like, Megan
And
Morris went into my work. Yeah.
and he goes, and he goes, well, that's what I designed that background for people to do that. And I go,
Yep.
okay, that's cool. It's a lesson learned. But then, you know, Megan will do things that you're not aware of until after you're done. I mean, like I got a cover up on my back of cards and that, and it's a long piece along the left side of my back. And she actually invaded those birds that I had, the background. And the background actually is very important to the fucking tattoo. So she invaded that, and that one I haven't said much. I haven't said anything to her, right? This is, you guys are just hearing it for the first time. But that one bothered me because it just too close to where it invaded.
Mhm.
But again, to make it what she had to do it. So, you know, I'm at a catch-22. Do I complain about it? Because it is a killer piece.
It
and
does
that
look
piece,
amazing.
and everyone talks about it. If any piece on my back besides the acid sheet now, it's those cards.
Well,
Everyone,
here's what I say to people. I don't know how, because I don't know the importance to that bird piece, but I tell people all the time, especially when they're limiting me about what I know needs to be done, not necessarily for the idea, but for the tattoo itself. I usually tell people like, look, everything on your body, for it to carry importance to you, needs to be actually seen that way. It needs to be advertised that way. You were attached to that background because symbolically it meant something to you, but did it actually yield that in the viewer? Did the viewer actually see that about it? Or was that something that they had to ask you about in order to get that piece of the information? Because what Megan, I'm sure, responded to was that I want people to look at him and the space in his body and just be enthralled by be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then they can ask you about it. And then you can tell them the way that you told us, like, yeah, this used to have this, and it has this whole story, because at that point, it's about luring people in. It's about bringing people into your art, to you, to your experience. And then you get to talk about your journey and getting these tattoos. And then you become the word, the message of your art. But your art should speak for itself. It should be the thing that people are like, holy fucking shit.
I do see Todd's
they
point
are.
though. Like
Yeah,
when we're talking about like backgrounds, because I do so many landscape tattoos, and some of my landscapes are total dreamscapes and they're combinations of things, but some of the backgrounds in my tattoos are the sentimental part. So like occasionally there might be like a specific tree line that just looks random, but like that was actually like a specific place where, you know, maybe as a collector, maybe that's where you have that talk ahead of time, like what's important about the background and what can be tied into and worked with. But like as a tattooer, I also try to make it very obvious, like what areas are intended to be like tied and connected into, like what you were saying, what Randy did with his piece on you, like, no, that area is there to be connected, and like that's ambiguous for this purpose.
I try to do that with my art too. I like to have a lot of things, and I try to encourage people to do it. Like if they want like hard lines and hard cutoffs to their tattoo, I really kind of ask them about that, because I'm like, I don't think the body has that. You know, like we call it a sleeve, but it's supposed to be more of like, you know, a second skin. It's supposed to be like something that like fills our skin and fills our body and kind of is a reflection of our soul, which is just, it is limitless. So I don't feel like put a limit on it. So I try to have things like watercolor washes or splashes or something, you know, atmospheric that you can tie something into it with, or a pattern that you can just run, like Ivana did, just run a line through it. And it
it's so funny that we've ended up on this topic for so long, because I've got a specific client who's been on the tip of my brain. She recently had to reschedule on me, but she's got an entire leg sleeve that I'm reworking, and I've already almost completed reworking her arm sleeve. And the person that started both of these, or did these, we'll call him the first layer on these projects. He's somebody who was very helpful to me when I first started tattooing. And like he, you know, at one point was somebody that I looked up to, but like over the years, he's just kind of gotten lazy, you know, where he used to do beautiful freehand work that was custom he's just started leaning on Google, and he just does things quick. You know, it's a shop where they've got like an $80 minimum. So he'll do $80 an hour tattoos, and he'll just whip it in there and be done with it. So this client in particular, now that I've basically recolored and fully saturated her arm, we've moved on to her black and gray leg. And she always wanted it to be dark, like dark illustrative, like heavy black background with like these bold black pieces and bold lettering and stuff that she has. And what this artist did was just this real quick, lazy gray wash behind everything. You've seen like the quick smoke where it's just a deliberate filler for the sake of filler. So she sees him, and usually he has no qualms with me working on his stuff, like, because I tell him all the time, like, I just look at it like I'm painting the second layer, like I'm not really changing it, I'm just adding like my flavor to it, you know. And I've worked with his stuff for so long that like there's kind of a style in the town, you know, where we worked, that you can see the collaboration between us. Like you can tell people that have collected from both of us. And like, but anyways, so he sees this girl, and he's very upset that I've like blacked out all of his, what he called beautiful, smooth gray wash. Like, and she was like, but that's what I wanted you to do. You know what I mean? Like, he's mad that
Yeah.
I did what she asked him to do. Like, he could have done exactly what I did, but he didn't listen. And now she's mad that I did what she asked him to do. Like,
This sounds like every argument that I have with my boyfriend, by the way. He's like, but the general consensus outside of our house says that this is what you should want. And I'm like, those fucking people aren't here. I'm literally telling you with my mouth what I want. And you're choosing to ignore me because of people. Because of people. I don't give a fuck. I'm asking you. This is between you and me, kid. Like, if you can't hear the words coming out of my mouth and respect them and listen to them and take this it's not easy for people to tell you what they want. And there's only so many ways they can tell you. It's language. I'm literally telling you. And
this
if
is
you
what I want.
not to listen, yeah, if you choose not to listen,
They'll go get what they want from somebody who will give it to them.
exactly. And then as a man, you know, like, I don't know if it's a man thing. I think it's everybody thing. But if you railroad that person and then assert your opinions on them or what you think they should want, and then they go outside of you and they get what they want somewhere else, there's like this automatic like rejection thing. And it's like, no, asshole, like, like it wasn't about you.
Thank you.
It was about what I wanted.
Yes.
It
It was about the
you.
person wearing the tattoo for the rest of their entire life. That's who it was about. It wasn't about me. It's not about him.
Exactly.
Like, there's no ego in this whatsoever. Like, she and I are committed to some really large work. So since we're committed to large work, I'm basically bringing the rest of her collection like up to like full saturation, you know? Oh, we froze. There we go. We're back.
Oh, you're good.
Froze for a minute.
Oh no, it's fine. I caught you. But no, it's true. This isn't about you. And you know, like, that's the moment within, and like going back to sex again, like if you're gonna stand there and be mad because I'm giving you cliff notes about how to better please me, we're done. Like, I'm not doing this, you know, like if you can't listen to what gives me pleasure, and you're not dedicated to doing that, and you're just trying to do your thing and, you know, take out whatever vision you have, I am not that. I'm not your fucking canvas. I'm not your play doll. I'm not something you can just jerk off on and then walk away.
Can we make shirts that say I'm not your canvas?
Yeah.
Can we do that? Like a baseball
Yes,
tee?
we should.
I'm not your canvas.
Yeah.
Oh, I really kind of like it a lot. That can be our first movement on the tattoo collecting podcast. I'm not your canvas.
I'm
I'm
telling
a
you.
person. I have a name.
Yep.
I earned
you know,
this.
And if it's a fantasy, it should be a mutual fantasy, right? Like, that's the measure of consent, is that, okay, are we both in alignment with this scene that we're trying to create? And are we willing to be actors and players? You know, what other people see is this epic feat, this drama that happens. But what we know is that this is a lot of asking, and this is a lot of us drilling and knowing each other and coming together, a mutual mind meeting. And then there's that flow that happens where you
That
have
collaborative magic
that trust each other. And, you know, I haven't obviously conquered that with my boyfriend, but, you know, that's what's amazing, is that, like, I feel like he's good material. He's good raw material. He's getting there. He's understanding things more and more. If you're not exposed to that kind of language very much, or you don't have a person that's willing to push back at you like that and really stand firm, I think both of us, we needed somebody to be like, no, asshole, no,
Right.
like this. Listen.
Right.
I need it just as much as he does.
I feel that.
Yeah. But I'm more vocal, and I think if there was a difference, is I think women are definitely encouraged, or at least allowed, to be more vocal about their feelings and emotionality and their what they want. It might not be as appreciated how I go about it, because I get mad. I don't get weepy. I get fucking pissed. Like, I'm like, dude, you could be this far from my face and I'm sticking here. Don't you fucking touch me, because that's gonna be the worst day of your life. Like, we can argue like this. I don't care, but I'm not backing down. This is me. This is what I want. and I'm going to be here in your face.
I think she's got
You
a
know,
little bit
it's
of a
not-
redneck side.
Oh, I
You
got
got a little bit of redneck.
Oh, I mean, I got the neck jerking. I got everything side of me.
You got some redneck and some ratchet. That's
Oh,
a dangerous combination.
Oh, I've been everywhere.
You've worked in customer service too long, or just the right length of time. I don't know.
I've experienced a lot. I've lived in Kentucky in like the buckle of the Bible Belt. I've lived in
The
downtown
buckle of the
ghetto.
Bible Belt.
That's what they call it, the buckle.
All right.
The absolute
Ooh.
center that latches it all together.
God save us all.
Right?
Meth.
Yes. and it makes sense too, because like your only options there is like a consummate professional is coal miner or nurse, and it's because you have a nurse that needs to take care of the coal miner, and there's like very little in between. You just do meth while you're like bored and trying to be like, is there more than this? All
right.
Yeah, that was my actually. I mean, I liked it. It was a view, and I met a lot of awesome people from Kentucky. I won't say I haven't. And it's a beautiful country too. Like as far as like the nature there, it's very beautiful.
You get out and see some waterfalls.
Yeah, it's beautiful. They have caverns there. What was it? We went into some kind of cavern there. I forget what the name of it was, but beautiful, beautiful. But yeah, I've lived there. I've also lived in the ghetto of Baltimore, North Avenue and McCullough Street. For anybody that understands Baltimore, North Avenue. It's colorful, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. Think of everything that you could say. It's every flavor, it's every color, it's every nuance of like, whoa, this might be a little too much. Like it's like that punch in the mouth kind of like taste of something where you're like, holy shit, dude. Like
this is how the world works.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've lived there. I've dated a lot of different kinds of people. I've, I haven't traveled everywhere, but I've been to Italy, so I know the European vibe. I would like to go to something that's a lot less Western, like Thailand or something like that. I think I would commune very well with that culture. I just like the idea of being in a place where there's silence. And
I've always wanted to explore some of the abandoned temples, all the overgrown, like I need to get there. I need to get there.
You should do it.
Okay, we're going to load up our backpacks. We're going to load up our cameras.
I would totally do that. I mean,
we're going to be like, we're coming to you live from,
I'm telling you,
under this
we've
tree.
already,
Under this tree.
we have the same travel ethics, I think. So I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be okay. I think that would be amazing. And I, like you, the temples are what I would go there for. I would love to see these ancient creations of humans that, they needed to enlist the help of fucking elephants to get rock where they needed it to be. And they needed to, they had to chisel away tick by tick by tick just to create something, to see something that has that kind of, I do believe in energy seeping into things and leaving its mark there in such a way, like to be in the presence of that. I felt that when I was at in Venice. There's a huge, the piazza there, the piazza, I think it's San Marco but there's a beautiful cathedral there, Duomo, that the entire place of it is nothing but mosaic.
I did a whole sleeve based on 3 of the panels from the Duomo doors.
Oh my God.
Beautiful. Some of the most amazing bas reliefs. I get really excited about architecture, all kinds of old architecture. To me, there's a language in it, and I really want to speak that language. I mean, I feel like subliminally, I kind of do, but like, I really want to like understand that, that language that's stood the test of time, and not like a test of 100 years, but we're talking buildings that are hundreds of years old. And, when we start talking about like temple ruins, now we're talking buildings that are thousands of years old. And we're talking all the different artisans and all the different hands that went into carving these stones and moving these stones and quarrying these stones and
dying before these things became what they are. Like there's deaths involved in these creations. Like some people
yeah, to have the foresight to start a project that you knew that your great grandchildren might maybe see complete. Like some of the cathedrals were under construction for like hundreds of years. And then, you know, those days, like the average lifespan was like 45, 50. So,
and then you have
like,
this guy that's mad at you because you blacked out his goddamn, and you're just like, come on, man. Come on. There's somebody who, like, you know, if you're talking about the legacy of art, like this building took a century to make. You know, like somebody had to pick up this torch and keep running with it.
Yep.
You know, not to say that, you know, I should criticize him. I'm sure he was a staple. Like you said, you already said it. It was a staple in your upbringing. So that's the thing, is that, you know, but I do think that tattooing, being an artist, is not the removing of ego, it's the management of ego. Because we have to have ego. We have to have it to sell ourselves. We're not selling.
I mean,
anything that we need.
we're making a permanent mark on another human being. That it takes a lot of nerve when you think about it. Like when you think about how nervous a person might be to cut another person's hair, then you think about like how much more intense it gets, the more permanent it gets. So just like to have the confidence in our ability to be like, oh no, this is going to be fine. Just sit back, relax. Let me do my job. Don't worry. This is your day off. Relax. What do you want to watch? Like,
it's management. It's ego management. Because like I said, I was talking to a guy earlier. He was, he's going to be a phenomenal tattoo artist. I'm just so excited that I had one of the first conversations with him on his journey to being a tattoo artist. But I believe his name is, I know the first name is Jeremy, but the last name I think is Della Rosa. And he's not a tattoo artist yet, but man, his portfolio is so beautiful online. And I told him to check out Reinventing, because I think he's going to get a lot from that just already. And I do think that Reinventing the Tattoo is something that if you're already there, when you go into a tattoo apprenticeship, you're going to be one step ahead of most people that walk through that door, because you already have such a grounding knowledge of our history that is foundational to us. And will, if you have a good mentor, I think any good mentor will see that as a supplementary aid to their work and to their ability to teach you, as be like, oh, Guy Atchison has been at this forever. Go read this chapter, and then we can talk about it, and then we can give you lessons that actually comment on this. Or you're already drilling this. Oh my fucking God, dude! Like yes, and then seeing his portfolio. But I told him, I said, you know, it's a funny thing, because you have to manage your ego a lot, I think, to make sure that what you're trying to get out of this thing is what you're going to get out of it. Because once, I mean, for me, and I don't know about anyone else, I'm sure there are tattoo artists that are very money focused, which is fine. I don't think your guy got lazy. I think he got money focused. I think that's really what happened, is that he got focused on making money more than he was considering the craft and being.
I know him personally. He got lazy.
Oh, he did?
He got
Okay,
lazy.
well,
Yeah, he
then
got
you know.
lazy.
Then you
Yeah,
know.
he's not money focused either. He got lazy.
Well, I mean, you know him. So, but when I hear,
Well, like I said, the shop minimum was 80 an hour. So he'd rather work 80 an hour when you've got people that are clearly willing to pay my day rate. Like they would equally pay you for all day of your time as well. You know what I mean? So when it's like that.
But it depends on how fast you can do it. Like if it's a minimum tattoo and you're just doing one after another semicolons all day, $80 an hour or $80 minimum, and you're able to on a 15-minute like roll them in, you know, you could do like 10 15 people a day. That's a good day.
But what I'm saying is he'd rather just like work on somebody for an hour and be like, all right,
got you. And
where
see that when I hear a minimum,
he's just covering as much ground as he can so he can get just a little bit of money, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like it's disappointing when things like that happen, because like, man, 10 15 years ago you were good. Like you were good. You were good in our area. You had a name around us, and like he just got lazy and he got sloppy, and now like he'd rather just make the quick dollar than actually giving people what they ask for. Like, people will pay you for good work. People want good work, and they will pay you for good work. You know what I mean? Like,
got in the way, you know, the ego, like you know, once you know you have that name, then you feel like, oh, I've arrived at something. So now I can take leverage. Now I
you know,
can,
that's fair. That is something that I have to kind of take into account, is like a lot of tattooers. Let's talk about tattooers that were like amazing in like the mid and late 90s. And then in the early 2000s, you start getting like this whole like new school tattoo like wave. So we've got a whole new genre of tattoos emerging. And if you didn't like keep up with times, if you didn't start learning how to saturate like all the new school kids were in the early 2000s, then you kind of got left. So then if you started in the 2000s and you didn't learn anything past the new school stuff, you just kind of got left behind again. So there's this part where like, even if you do get good at this thing, you have to keep evolving, you have to keep growing, because the art is growing and the art around us is growing so fast, and the community is growing fast, and we're able to share knowledge with one another so much more quickly than we could in years past, that like, if you're not keeping up, you're kind of going to get left behind. So one thing I kind of have to remind myself is that these guys kind of, for instance, when I started tattooing in this community, and this is in Marion, it's about an hour north of Columbus, but when I started tattooing in this community, there was a lot of scoffing. There was a lot of like, just because you went to art school doesn't mean you can tattoo, which, what kind of logic is that? Like, I've had instruction from some of the best instructors in the country on how to like design and layout and art. Like,
yeah.
But anyways,
no, I mean, yeah. Well,
so
I think there's a different scoffing from it. Just to pause you for just 1 second, because that was something I told this guy too. He was really excited that I wasn't withholding information, but this is one of the reasons why I think they was because the art kids don't realize that some of the point of tattooing is to be such a individual expression that it should not be institutionalized to the point of government incursion and regulation and things like that. The gatekeepers want to be the ones that hold the gates. The practitioners want to be the ones with the power. So I think a lot of the reasons why they really hated art kids was because we came in with all of these really newfangled ideas where we were like, oh, why aren't there tattoo schools? Why aren't there, you know, like this? Why is this so hard to learn? Why is this? And it's because, you dick, because we don't want the wrong people coming in here telling us what to do and why, because it's not essential to do what we do. We care. We are the ones that grounded this. We care about our clients. We know our clients. We know what they want. We know what they need. We know what with this industry, we give a shit enough to move this the way it needs to be moved, that we don't need some government body telling us what we do and why we do it and how to do it. And once it gets to that point, coming from an industry that is so overregulated, which is hair, and for no fucking reason, dude, it is dumb how much money gets put towards that industry and no fucking oversight either. You have all these rules and no enforcement, and it becomes this money-making thing to where now, in order to even talk to the board of cosmetology, to even get there, you have to pay $10,000 just to have a seat at the table. That's fucking insane. And that is why I think purposely a lot of those old heads were like, dude, I'm telling you, just chill the fuck out, you know. And that's why they say not everyone should tattoo, because this isn't a money-making thing. This is about the people who belong here. This is about something that's very personal and that can only be harnessed and only be about this very sacred thing that cannot be abused and not be treated like, I don't know, a Snickers bar, for Christ's sake, or like, you know, like we don't want it to be that. We don't want it to be empty. We don't want it to be a shell thing. So just to comment on that for a second, but I think that's why we got the scoffs. I got it too. I had a lot of people, what I perceived to be lessening my shine, because I felt like they were like trying to damn me because I was good. And because I understood something that was about service and the client, and maybe I gave my client too much reign, where I should have taken more of it for myself. But I think that's what they mean when they mean not everybody can tattoo. And when you really get down to it, I don't think everybody can. I think that we are, like you said, we're constant nomads. We're the circus people. We're the ones that we're used to a pace that is not something that is constant, or we love the change. We love that growth. We love that heat. We love that, but you get old too. You get tired too. So I think that happens, was it lazy?
The pace changes. The pace changes.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it changes for different reasons, for very good reasons too. So I think, again, I just, to weigh it, I just now that I've kind of been humbled by time and by my own experience and my own arrogance, I now try to be like, why is this person, again, the conspiracy, the critical thing, why is this person doing this? Are they doing it because they want to lessen my shine? Or are they doing it because there's something here that I'm not quite aware of, and I'm only going to be aware of if I shut up and pay attention and listen and watch for a while. And I think that's something that when you go to art school and you have the privilege of going to art school, which not a lot of people do, you forget that not everybody, when my boyfriend hears me talk about like color theory or some shit, he's like, you realize that most people don't understand that, right? Like,
and the crazy thing is, most of my color theory knowledge, I had a chemistry teacher that was excellent in high school, and I was like on the science Olympiad team. So like I was a biology and chemistry nerd, as well as like an art nerd and athlete and all that. But anyways, like learning color as an artist and from like a critical scientific point of view at the same time, I was also in band. So as I'm like learning about wavelengths, period, it just opened the world up to me. And then like just understanding how our eyes, on a biology level, understanding how our eyes perceive color, and then understanding how that color affects psychology. And then also understanding how like these wavelengths that are indetectable by our eye, they still affect us, like ultra reds and ultraviolets. Like we don't necessarily visually perceive those, but they make a difference. Like we need ultraviolet light, we need that. And then when you start thinking about like the wavelengths that we can't see or can't hear, like that gap in between, but that's still data that our body is absorbing. So when I'm coming into my color theory class with this understanding already of how like the electromagnetic spectrum works from like a musician point of view, a biologist point of view, and from like a chemistry point of view, my color theory teacher and I went round and round. Like,
really, they didn't enjoy you?
Yes.
I think that would be an amazing student to have. To be like, I would be like, here, come up here and I wouldn't be facetious about it. I'd be like, it would be like Jake Meeks when he was like, Amy, you're too long-winded. Get up on the stage for a second. I need them to hear you, and I'm not reciting all of this. But I would share the stage at that point and be like, get over here for a second. This is something that I didn't even know. And that's why I think it's really important as a good mentor to share that stage and realize that you don't know everything, and that, that you haven't arrived at anything, that you're giving yourself to the process, the legacy of your craft. It's more about the craft.
Well, here's the funny thing. Let's rewind, like with, let's go back to the like how we gather our knowledge. Would I have ever imagined, let's go back to like 16-year-old Fawn, while I'm sitting in like biology, chemistry, and I'm doing all these things, would I have ever imagined that I would be like realistically referring to what I was learning in those classes every day for the rest of my life. Like even when I worked retail and we'd be doing like layouts and stuff, there was color theory as to like what we put in the front. And I worked for a Victoria's Secret. So like their planograms were set up to the golden mean, and then their color theory like swirled around the golden mean right to the cash wrap. So as you walk through the store, you've got like that psychological play on your emotions as the colors shift.
Yeah.
So like
very cool.
literally even before I was back into art after art school, like even during my retail years, there was that color theory, and it was very applicable and it was very practical, and it helped me like understand and fill in the gaps where like our store was a little different and we had to think outside the box to get it to conform to code.
That's really cool.
And then once we get into, you know, before I was tattooing, I was working as a graphic designer. So that was kind of like my segue back into creative world. And when you're designing like logos for companies, or you're designing like big eye-catching billboards or advertisements or t-shirts or vehicle graphics, and you know, there's a difference between why do we pick red and black versus red, white, and black, because your eye doesn't differentiate between red and black from a distance. You got to break it up. But to explain that to people is tough. But when you understand how the eye perceives the colors that you're putting in front of it, and then the psychology of why we choose what color, or why I put this dark symbol down here instead of in the upper corner, like, you know, how your brain just like takes information in. I could go on and on about the golden mean and how that goes into design, but like some of these principles I knew before art school, but if it wasn't for art school, I couldn't have kind of locked it in. But I never would have imagined that all of this, what I thought was useless information in high school, would be like daily my bread and butter.
Well, and
it's
then
crazy how it works.
It's a different space too, right? Because in art school, they teach you to ask a lot of questions and to be the student, and you're all students together, right? But when you're going into an apprenticeship, you're learning how to be a person's employee. You're learning how to be a part of that business. So it's a much different thing, and it's one-on-one too, where, you know, your instructor, I feel like the part of it is like, dude, I'm sharing my business with you. I'm sharing something with, and I'm sharing it with you. Like, you're not paying, and sometimes they pay, but like, you know, now that's more common, but in the, you know, the old times, it was more of like, you know, you're just going to work here and observe and listen and be here. And after this, you're going to know exactly how to be a professional, which as much knowledge as, like you said, that clicks all the time, that I carry with me all the time, that enriches everything that I do, which that I would easily share with anyone. That's the thing about like the old school people, is that they don't understand that, like, had they asked, I would have spent the time and shown them everything that I knew, because I was so excited to know it and I was geeking out about it and all of that. But the problem with it is that art school didn't prepare me for being a professional. It prepared me to do art. It gave me concepts of art. It gave me something to play with, to find myself, my own voice with, but it did not give me the marketing kind of stuff.
I agree.
I
think the most beneficial thing that I got from from art school, and you know, I did get pretty close to a lot of my professors, and both the chair of the foundations department and the chair of the fine arts department. Like, we were like homies. Like, we'd hang out, like not like inappropriately, but like we'd like chill and have a cup of coffee in passing in the halls and things like that. Like, we had a good professional student teacher relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the thing that I got from art school in a nutshell, and from all that I took from all of these teachers, is as talented and as dedicated as you are going to fail. You will be told no, you will get kicked in the teeth.
Yeah.
Do it anyways. Keep going. So like the lesson that I learned was like, you're going to fail. You're going to fail, but keep going, keep grinding, because that's part of it. Like, you will fail. Galleries will tell you no. You will get turned down for jobs that you want. You will not get into the programs that you want to get into. keep going, because this many percent of people join these programs, this many people drop out, fail out, switch departments, whatever. And then, so this tiny percent makes it through the program. And then this tiny percent actually gets into the field. And then this tiny percent actually like rises to the top of whatever that field is. And the people that rise to the top are the ones that got kicked in the knees the most. They're the ones that got their teeth knocked out. They're the ones that had the hardest critiques and then grew from them. They're the ones that got turned down from their dream jobs and doors slammed in their face, but they kept going. So that's what I learned from art school, because so many of my instructors were working artists and I did respect them at what they did. And they did have so much to teach me. But the general lesson was, we failed. Like, I failed. This is how I failed. This is how I struggled to get out of that failure. And this is, you know what I mean? So for me, that was the most valuable lesson, is like, okay, don't take it personal when I fail, keep going. So if I wasn't surrounded by that group of instructors, I'm not saying that everybody at my school got that lesson, but I think that's the valuable thing in my time at art school that I learned, was like, no matter how good you are, you're going to miss the mark. You're going to fail. You're going to make bad decisions. You're going to be passionate about something that nobody else likes. And that's fine. That's part of it. And you can't take it personal. If the message that you're creating missed the mark and nobody missed it, you still made it. You still got that energy out. It was still productive. You still made something. You still have something to show for it. Did it sell for $10,000? No. Was it worthless? No. Make another. Do it again. You know?
Yeah, I'm glad that you got that in high school, or not in high school, in college and art school. I learned that, and this isn't a competition thing, but I learned it a lot sooner, only because I was not an athlete. I was born with an underdeveloped hip, and automatically what I could shine in was very limited right away.
Jordan, what were we talking about before we went live today? I was explaining to Jordan my hip defect, and my hip, like my hip socket is funny. So all the muscles basically have to overcompensate. But for me, that was one of my motivations to be an athlete, was they were like, you're never going to run like normal. You won't be able to do these things. And for me, it was like, I feel like I can do these things.
I was athletic, but I was protective about it because I couldn't partake in the athleticism that they had in school. Walking long periods would hurt me really badly. And so I swam a lot. So swimming was not, of course, a normal thing, but I think that being automatically limited with people taught me that it was fine to be different. And my art became a thing that just was an atonement, because it was something I could do. It was something that I had a powerful play in that other people didn't. And failure was never even the thought. For me, I was like, of course that's the truth. I think it's a great psychological truth to help people just walk into the things that they're doing, and not be, completely just done after one failure. You just keep going. But I think that that's something that athletics, I think that's something that everything teaches you, is that, like, being on a team, being on a sport, finding the love in the game, that grit, that embracing the suck, that all is a part of it. But I maintain that I wouldn't do most things if I was like, oh, I'm going to fail. I don't walk into things like that. I walk into things being like, this is going to be amazing. Now, do I get slapped a lot?
So,
yes.
So one of the things with being an athlete, with being at a disadvantage with a funny hip, like I could still run, I could still do all the things, but like natural speed is not my thing. So instead of just being a runner, I ran hurdles. So for me, my goals and motivations were totally different than the other people I was running with, because I was told, first of all, you can't do this. So I know off the bat, I'm not as fast as the people around me. No matter how hard I work, I'm not going to be as fast. But the workaround is, with hurdles, if I've got good enough form and my strength is there, then it doesn't matter, because it's about explosive energy and it's about technique. So it's one of those where, like, it's almost like, you're doing more than just balls out sprinting or stamina running or long distance running, or there's like this psychological factor to running hurdles where speed alone isn't going to cut it. So for me, that was the workaround. And my goal was never to be first. I knew I wasn't going to be the best, but my goal was to be competitive. So if I was competitive, if I made it to the final heat, then that was it for me. I was good. You know, I didn't look at it as a failure because I didn't place first, second, or third. I looked at it as I made it to the final heat. That was my goal.
Yeah.
So having realistic goals, you know what I mean? If I would have looked at my entire high school career and I would have looked at what like my personal bests were and things like that, like another athlete might have looked at my career as a failure and been like, oh, I was just mediocre in high school. However, I looked at it like, well, I was told I couldn't do this anyways.
Well, not only that, but I think, going back to what we started with is that when people get tattooed and when people do the things that they do with us and what we do, it's all about cultivating value, right? Like, I think a lot of us, if I'm, I might be guessing, but I think a lot of us have probably felt like in a lot of ways, whether we're getting tattooed or we are a tattoo artist or we're artists in general, that we have to be valuable in a different way than what society would automatically stick on you. We chase our own value system. We already don't identify with the common thread.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have to find the thing that we do identify with and the thing that we can shine within. And that's what creates the professional. That's what creates this amazing, special thing that is rare, because we decided, we were like, okay, well, all these other people are trying to be the staple thing. Well, I know I can't be that, and I'm not that, but I am this, and I'm going to be the best of this that I can be. And I'm going to just lean into all of this, and I'm going to cultivate it from, all the different ways that I can cultivate it. And I'm going to be the special thing that then becomes this brand, that then becomes the art, then becomes our practice. And then it becomes something that people are like, holy shit, I want to know what that person is doing. And then they get to share with us, and they get to hear a little bit about that journey. And then we pass that light to them and say, no, we want you to do the same thing. Stop with all the noise outside of this space. What are you good at? What is your heart? What is your thing? What are you wanting to express? Because that's what I can guide you in. That's what I can teach you about, turning that light up that's already there. I maintain that education is not shoving a bunch of shit into somebody's head. It's about turning up what's already there and bringing it out and letting it shine.
Have you ever heard of a little band called Pink Floyd?
Yes.
Okay, so they made this movie one time.
It's just
They made this movie one time called The Wall, and I'd watched it a lot growing up because I'm a weirdo, and so
it's a weird film.
It's a fantastic film. So I was watching it as I was coming down off of the chemistry journey. I can't remember whether it was mushrooms or whether we had taken LSD, but I was coming down. So I was like in recovery mode, and like I wasn't really mentally ready to sleep yet, but I was like coming out of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm watching it and I'm reflecting on it. And like I said, I watched it growing up. I've always listened to Pink Floyd's music, and it's always kind of like resonated with like the tortured artist, which I think all of us have a little bit of, like, whether it's on the surface or not. But one of the things that I got as we made it all the way through the movie, and I was on my own journey following along with the psychedelics in my system. So at the end, you've got the narrative of like the just endless hallway of bricks, and we're all another brick in the wall. We're all a piece of this huge machine. Mm-hmm. And what I took from that is like, we are all part of the wall, whether we like it or not. We are all part of this bigger thing, but you can choose to be a brick, or you can choose to be a window. Mm-hmm. So if you're a window, you're still part of the structure, but you can let the light in, you let the knowledge in, and you share something that the bricks around you can't share because they're bricks.
Right.
They need to be there. they need to be there. They're an integral part of the system. But if you're fortunate enough to be a window, don't you think that's special? And don't you think like you have an obligation to like open up and share everything with everybody? Like a lot of people think that that movie's so dark, but like once I watched it on hallucinogens, in the way it was touching me coming out of that specific trip, it was like I almost felt like I had an obligation and even more of a responsibility to start sharing the things that I've learned. You know, I've always wanted to be an educator. I just didn't necessarily think I had anything worth educating people about. But like, there's all these experiences that I have and all these experiences that I get to enjoy by proxy through my clients. And that's all knowledge that I get to share. Like somebody that doesn't have a platform, either through their art or through, you know, a virtual platform like this, you know, they're equally as important, but it makes it so much more important for us to share and, you know, be that thing and take pride in being different and take pride in being that thing that like inspires everybody else to keep going. Like if there's not these beacons of light to keep everybody else interested and entertained and driven and like dreaming, you know, like if not
Right.
for the window, what's the point in the machine? You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
so.
Well, and you know, going back to what you said about the bricks, you know, like they are the structure and they are the thing that allow for our being there. And I do think that that's very essential to understand about being an artist, is that we don't give anybody anything they actually biologically need. We feed the soul. We
Right.
feed the reasons why we keep living, but we don't feed, house, clothes, or anything. We just basically we spark that passion that helps you be okay with being you know, doing what you do and owning what you do and stepping into that. And I think it's important too for us, it's a measure that I take all the time with my ego of having a lot of appreciation for the bricks, because again, from the client, if there wasn't the client, there wouldn't be me. If there wasn't, you know, everything, if there wasn't everything, I couldn't be here. I couldn't have this opportunity. So practicing gratitude for all of that is important too, and recognizing how many people have structurally built what you get to play in too is also very, very, very important. So I do that with a lot of professions, a lot of things that I'm like, dude, I couldn't be here without you. Like if you hadn't suffered or sacrificed what you did, there's no way I could be this human. I'm particularly my mom and my dad. Like, dude, fucking, the sacrifice they made for their bodies, their lives, their money, their time, just that I could be this person. Oh my God. It took me 40 years to like bawl to my mom, like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was such a little shit. But she was like, I know, you're just emotional, you know, like she was so tempered about it. She's like, it's cool, man. I was like, it's not cool. It took me 40 years to like get it. But I got it. And, you know, fortunately my mom's like she's a long-term investor. So
yeah,
she was like, that's fine.
Moms already understand that like it's not on their time schedule. Like it's all right. They'll get it when they're supposed to.
She's like, I knew it would accrue this interest one day. I knew. It's fine. My dad's always just been there to be like, Amy, it's, you know, just, you know, like have fun. Remember to have fun. So don't take it so seriously, you know, all the time. Because I do. I get in my head a lot. I take shit really seriously. And it's always that like, everything is gonna be cool, man.
Yep.
We are in this body, in this timeline, a wall, but we're not really a wall. We're really a part of everything. And we just think we're a wall, and we get to choose what piece of the wall we are at this particular point. But we're not the wall. We're just in a cell, you know, kind of running a simulation that we get to play with. He's like, remember to have fun. If you're not having fun, then what are you doing? Like, why are you even here? So that was my dad's throw in.
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool.
Gotta have a little bit of fun along the way.
Oh, I maximize it all. That's I said, you know, when I was up there with Mark from Needle Jig, I was like, you know, he was like, I think you have to be a little sociopic. I said, no, totally.
Oh, for sure.
Totally. I am cultivating my experience all the time. I am a very self-involved person, unabashedly. And I believe that's the only way you actually can be, really. I think that that's the only true thing that you can affect. But through affecting that and embracing that and just choosing to do that, the ripple effects of that action do so much for everyone else that it in fact becomes a less self-centered thing, because you are, if your sights are on personal discovery being a window, it's an amazing thing to own that and think of every way that you can be the best part of that, and then you teach other people how to be the best part of that, and it's just really, really cool. And I think that if I were to rob myself of that privilege to be that, then I'm nothing for anyone. I'm not even a good brick, you know.
Mhm.
Like I'm
Yeah.
structurally a piece of shit, and I might as well not, you know, like I'm crumbling. You know,
Yeah,
like,
don't crumble. Be a window.
no,
Be a window.
no,
Open up.
I want to build shit up, and I want to do more than that. I want people to know that there's something beyond even this wall that they
Mhm.
think is real. But yeah, I love that vision. Thank you for that gift from your trip.
Yeah, you're
That's
welcome. You're
I
welcome.
like that. I think that's great.
Yeah, I never saw it like that until I was like, and I mean, clearly it was a good journey that I was on. So like coming out of it, like identifying with like the torments of, you're following a musician as he's feeling pawed at by society, basically. And as a tattooer, we've all overcommitted ourselves, and we've all overbooked ourselves, and we've all had that moment where we don't want to look at our phone, and we feel like everybody around us is just like, dance, monkey, dance.
Yes.
Why
aren't you doing what
I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for all of my clients. But when I am overbooked, and I do feel that way, that those are just the times where I need to, like we said way back in the beginning of the conversation, I need to just recharge. I need to have more time to myself, and I need to recharge, because I am grateful, and I don't like having a chip on my shoulder, because I'm grateful that people are excited about my work, and I'm grateful that people want to wait in line. And it just, those moments when you just feel pawed at, and you feel like, even though let's say fans, even though they're people that are fans of my work, it still feels exhausting sometimes, and like you want to retreat and you can't. So when you do, it sometimes it's after an explosion, and that explosion makes you look insane, and it's really not even the thing that you exploded about. Like, who cares that the latte was iced instead of hot? I know it's not technically a latte if it's not steamed milk. Don't have a meltdown over this. Like,
right. Well, and true, like, but I think that after a while you become really good at guarding those boundaries, and you kind of slow. That's what jujitsu taught me. I didn't conquer jujitsu at all, but what I did understand about myself is that I've become I've taken that heat out of, because I'd started with public speaking first, and I realized how much my childhood and how I had to defend myself in my own childhood really vetted me to, it's weird, like when you are a practice professional, everything slows down, and you're given this, and then you do this, and you're given this, and it's act, react, and you're doing this dance to where you're not kind of controlling, you're just taking a part of it, and it's that flow state that you get in. And I saw it in jujitsu in this way that like was incredible, because that's what they do. It's a chess move between two people until you tap, and then you learn from it and you reflect on it. But the thing that I only got to in my year of practicing it with it was realizing that I would gas myself out before I would even go. I got too in my head. I would like aggrandize it. But the thing that I didn't do in other spaces, in verbal things, and I think that's the reason why I had gotten all the way into my late 30s without a physical altercation, is because verbally, when there's a verbal assault, that shit happens to me because I get real slow, real controlled. I listen, I act, react, and I can see the person burning themselves out in the conversation before they've even expressed their point. And I'm like, dude, you have a martial art master right here. I am just responding to everything that you're doing. I'm going to pin you. I'm going to get you to tap. And I saw that about my verbal play. And that's the thing, is that like when I was given that gift of being in tattooing, slow the fuck down. It's a really important thing. You don't want to gas yourself out before you get going. You don't want to overthink it. You want to just listen and respond and all this stuff. It's a really cool thing. So
now that I've started playing pool again,
Mhm.
I'm being confronted with all of those lessons. Not that it's near as physical as jujitsu, but like my goals as a pool player, and I've played on and off like since I was little. And I worked at a pool hall when I was younger. So like there for a while, I was really a good shot and I was very confident, and like I knew what I could do and I knew my limitations. So now that I'm just getting back into pool, and it's a totally different league, so some of the things are a little bit different. It's crazy to be like, I kind of feel like I'm back at zero. I'm not really back at zero, but I just feel like I'm starting over. And to play like the mental chess game of pool with other people, and then you've always got that like slow down. Hitting it
Mhm.
too hard isn't going to help a thing. Like slow it down. And it's just another one of those, like, you can make the shots, just slow it down and play the game. And I feel like that's something that like jujitsu has a lot of the same lessons, is just slow it down. You know the move and you know how to execute it. Get there slowly, get there methodically. One of the things I like when Derb and Ben and some of their buddies will train at the warehouse, they'll roll out the mats, and they all come from different gyms, and they're all like blue, purple, like brown
Yeah.
and black. So there's several belts that are training together, and you can tell the higher belts always just move more slowly. Like it's not even a physical match at that point, because they know they're physically evenly matched. So it's not about ego. It's really about being smart and playing the game right. And like, using the gi to your advantage or avoiding using the gi. But it's crazy to see how technical, like, when you're first starting out jujitsu, you just grab and hold where you're supposed to grab and hold. But once you see like a brown belt or a black belt, they've got all these subtle nuances of like, I'll do this with these fingers while these fingers are free. So there's these just really subtle things where if you didn't learn those fundamentals early on, you don't even,
Yeah. No,
you
it's a
don't
thing.
catch the nuances.
No, and I what I reminded myself within it, and going back to like the initial point of like that explosion, it comes from, I think, when we get overtaxed, I think it's when we know that we've let our boundaries waffle, and then we're really mad at ourselves, is what it is. And we knew that that was a move that wasn't going to land us well, but we did it anyway, thinking that somehow, some way, this is going to work out in our favor, even though countless times over it has not. And I think once you become practiced in that way, and you understand that you can lovingly fight with somebody, because that's what jujitsu is. It's the lovingly fight with somebody. There becomes this calm about you. My mentor's face used to piss me the fuck off, because every time he would roll, he looked like he was walking through the park. There was no anxiety. There was no redness. He was just wrapping people up into goddamn balls. And it was like, and I was like, dude, your face, I hate your face. It's like when your boyfriend starts laughing at you because you're mad, and meanwhile he's like, man, she's so mad. like he knows it's like, man, I could probably pummel this bitch. She doesn't even know how much I could just level her in a punch if I really wanted to. Look at her go. She's so mad. And it's like, it's kind of that thing, but it makes you madder, like, because as the person who's like truly like expressing all these things, like you're like this infant just having a temper tantrum, but what you're really mad at is like a lot, like you said, a lot of different things. but yeah, what you're actually doing, and what I came to find out, especially in therapy, is that practicing compassionate love is showing people how to set boundaries, is kind of defending your place in this whole life thing. It is like, let me remind you that I am not a monkey for you. Let me remind you that you would not like to be treated that way. And let's start exercising our excuses and our own hypocrisies in a moment, and pause, and to very, very respectfully check somebody. And that's what I see black belts, is respectfully checking somebody and be like, this could have gone really bad for you. Like, I just
You
need
could
to
have just blacked out. There's
Yes.
a reason we're called black belts.
Yes.
Let me remind you what I could have just done. You
Right.
see the restraint I practiced?
Mhm.
We both know what could have happened. That's a black belt.
Yes.
Like, and they don't
Exactly.
even have to say it. It's all in just the
Yep.
littlest move of the eyebrow.
Yeah. Like,
That whole conversation happened.
right. And if you're a
I
baby,
could have just
get
killed
mad.
you.
Yeah.
Do what?
And if you're a baby, you're really mad because you want to be them in so much, but you have no time, you have no temperance, you have no history to it. And it's just frustrating, because what you're really frustrated is the fact it takes time, that you haven't taken the time, that you haven't done the things, that you let your boundaries drop. And when you have somebody kindly reminds you of that, it's the best thing in the world. And that's really compassion love. It's not telling people what they want to hear, it's giving them what they need to hear.
Mhm.
And I think that that's something that, again, like you said, being that window, that's part of that for me, is like kind of showing people, because a window also can have a reflection, look at it a different way, and like reminding people to constantly mirror.
Nice observation. Nice.
Yeah.
This analogy is getting even deeper. I like it.
I don't need to be high. I'm just saying. I have gone, but I will say this: I do recommend, because I started looking at Crayola's work, Simpkins.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, fuck, does this guy go there? And like the surrealist artist, and I was like, I need to do psychedelics. Like,
Yeah,
I
Dirk's got one of his paintings, and it's one where, like, at first glance, it doesn't seem like anything, but I have spent countless hours just, it's hanging in his living room now. It's not at the studio, but it's one that, like, that guy's on a different wavelength. Like, I'm on a different wavelength. He's on a different wavelength.
That's what I saw in his work. I was just like, I need to do something that alters my perception. I really want that. Like, I really need that. I'm not as versed as a lot of people in psychedelics have gotten. And I think if you do, like we all talked about, approach it like that, you're gonna have an amazing yielding experience. I mean, freaking Todd has a whole tattoo dedicated to it at this point. Like,
he's got multiple. He's got part of his body dedicated to it. What do you got today, Todd?
What is this? Oh, yeah.
He's always showing off what goodies he has. It's like, we get it, Todd.
Are you in Colorado? Where are you located? Is it a place where you can actually, I mean, obviously it's a packaged good. You can partake if you want to.
Well, I got it from New York, so brought it home. So I'm from Michigan.
Oh, right on.
So,
right on.
The dirty
but these are out there now.
Yes.
There's all kinds of new psychedelic stuff out there. So
I'm happy for it.
Yeah, me too. But guys, I got to get out of here. I've got to start getting my stuff ready for Vegas tomorrow.
It was so
Vegas
nice
tomorrow. You got a tournament?
Yeah, it's World Series is going on this now.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I'm going
that's
out.
right. I knew but forgot.
Yep.
What do you do?
Right.
I'm just curious real quick, because I'm just meeting you. I'm sorry if I'm making
Poker.
you be redundant. What is it? Poker? Oh, dude, that's dope. Fuck yeah, man. That's awesome. That's an amazing, like, you gotta know people's, that's really, really cool to be a professional poker player. That's awesome.
Yeah, you have to definitely know people to play that game.
Yes.
And know what buttons to push and everything else. Yeah. It's a fun game.
That's dope. Oh, wow.
It is.
Super cool. Super cool dude, Dad.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Todd, thanks for your input today. We will
Yeah.
hopefully talk to you next week.
Peace,
All right.
Todd.
Peace.
See ya.
Later, man.
Bye.
Bye.
He's cool.
Todd's awesome. I love having his input. One of the things I love about having Todd on the show, he runs the Skin Art Collectors page. They've got like umpteen bajillion followers on Instagram. And he helps run some other, I should say curate some other pages. But he's just collected from some prolific collectors. He's judged competitions. He's won awards all over the place. For
Ooh, that's
not
awesome.
for not being a tattooer or like somebody who like has any stake in any tattoo industry. He's just awesome. He's just passionate. He's super opinionated though too, but he knows enough people that he's well informed about what he's opinionated about. But one of the
That makes
reasons
all the difference.
one of the reasons I love having Todd join us, and then our buddy Ben, when Ben's able to join us, is they're not tattooers. So their opinions, you know, mine and Jordan's opinions are skewed a little bit. Like we are collectors, like the show is about our experience as collectors first, but like we are tattooers. So our point of view is always going to be a tattooer's point of view because we eat, sleep, and breathe it. You know, we're in that life. But when they're people that are just passionate collectors, you know, they're not making their money off of the tattoo industry like we are. I feel like on this platform, somehow Todd's opinion is almost more valuable than mine, just because, you know, he's a collector. He's an informed collector. He's not a tattooer at all.
Yeah.
But
I believe that with my boyfriend because he's my supportive entity. And he's the layman. He doesn't have a lot of tattoos. He is a regular person that has gotten tattooed and sees it from what way he sees it.
mhm.
And I think that's a very valuable piece of information to have as you're talking about like transitioning from, you know, the perception of tattooing to being a tattoo artist or to being any kind of professional. Because he has his things that he's done that are amazing. He's an amazing weightlifter. He is looking to break records one day, and he's incredible. He's dedicated, I think, 9 years of his life now to strongman.
That's a whole crazy different lifestyle. Like I feel like bodybuilders of that degree, that's a whole different kind of body modification and discipline as well. Like they are truly transforming and manipulating their body on a cellular level, where we are just playing with the outside. We're playing with the outside and the spirit, but they're also playing with like the molecular structure and their spirit as well. And like when you talk to like, I've talked to some competitive bodybuilders that they really were just kind of meatheads and all they've done is lift weights since high school. But most of them have had this amazing story of transformation. So I actually really have grown to enjoy talking to, and like just through like working on them and having that connection. I've really enjoyed learning a lot of my bodybuilders' stories and like why they are so disciplined and passionate about what they're doing. And like just like with art, it's an obsessive compulsive thing. Like it gets them. And like once you like get bit by the like, what can I make my body do? Like with this thing, with these same two hands that everybody else has been given, what can I make? What transformation can I make? And it's pretty cool when it's somebody that's actually going through like the spiritual transformation as well as like the physical transformation. It's a neat journey to be a bystander of.
Yeah, for him it was very healing too, because he'll tell you right away. I came at it from he would say this, that he did it because he was his life was threatened, and he did it as a reaction of like us feeling like we needed something to confront the world with that protected us a little bit or made us feel more the way that we wanted to feel when we confronted other people. So for him, it was a matter of, if I'm a huge dude, people are not going to fuck with me. And there's no less embracing the suck of it. I mean, there's pain. He pushes past the pain. He pushes past rationale. He's like, you're.
Have you ever pulled a hamstring?
No.
I have. It is excruciating. And I know that's something that lifters go through is those deep muscle injuries where it's like not a major injury, but the pain's
Yeah.
awful. So like whenever I'm talking to somebody who's like in recovery from a bad lift or a bad competition or whatever, it's always like, oh, I bet you're in pain. I bet that feels like a softball jumped up and bit you from the inside.
Yep.
Oh,
But it's funny because they don't like, so I really like getting massage because I think it creates blood flow that I'm not getting because I'm sitting all the time. Whereas him, he's like, don't like, okay, yeah, that's enough. Because for him, there's so much of that he's like, I just need you to rub it long enough to loosen up whatever's just locked up in there. But beyond this, I don't need any more pain. I don't need any more of this. He's like, don't touch me. I'll rub you. I'm not gonna, I don't really enjoy it. He's like, that shit hurts. It's like, and
I
you remind me.
absolutely love my massage therapist.
Oh,
I
me
think,
too.
I think everybody should either see a chiropractor or a massage therapist or both. Like
Ideally both, yeah.
splurge, treat yourself because you feel so much better afterwards. And then like if you have a massage therapist that cares, they educate you as you go. So you can do things that help your body be better. And then the more your massage therapist gets familiar with your body, the more intuitive they become, the more beneficial each session is. And like,
Yep.
the first couple of days after seeing a massage therapist for the few times, you might feel good and limber for 2 or 3 days. But after you've been seeing them for a year, you're like limber and youthful for like a week after, it's one
Yeah,
of
it's really
those.
good for
I
your
just
skin.
think everybody, we all have a job where we are locked doing something, whether you're a tattooer, whether you're a artist, whether you work in a factory, whether you have an office job, we're all doing things where our body's in weird positions all day long. Like nobody has, maybe there might be jobs, but nobody has those jobs where you are not using and abusing your body daily in some way. I think everybody should splurge and have a massage therapist. Like find a good massage therapist, see them monthly, even if you're not injured, and just start getting in touch with your body. And I don't
Yeah.
know. I think it's just valuable. I feel like that's like one of those like tricks to longevity is like just keeping everything limber and keeping it like keeping your body balanced with itself. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe like if you don't have a massage therapist, I think maybe yoga would be equally as effective because you're moving every part of your body and you're working every joint and every muscle. I think that would also be in the same realm of like spoil yourself, do this.
Yeah, I would say that if you do have a job that repetitively puts you under some kind of physical activity, like if you're picking things up all the time, it would be good to have a chiropractor and maybe do yoga because you're going to be strong in some areas and very deficient in others. And what these kind of things do is put your body back into alignment and kind of counters all of the repetitive things. I mean, shit, dude, even just driving in your car, like noting the fact that you lean more one way than the other because of where things are set up and how your body has to work those pedals on that. And if you have
When I was younger, I drove like a complete hood rat. I was like leaned all the way back. Now as an adult, I'm like, all right, let's get a little Posturepedic. Let's get my lumbar support. Let's turn my heat on.
Yeah. I'm doing all of that. I know. Not only that, but like, homesteading and stuff. Like I love the adult things that I get to do with my money too. Like when I would put on a new roof on my house or I love getting a vacuum with like lots of attachments and like features. Like I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. All the things that I never thought that
you're an adult when.
Yes. You're like,
I got a new vacuum.
A new dishwasher.
This sucks. This is fantastic.
Or like new tires on your car. I'm just like, awesome, man. Like I love all that stuff. I'm just like, I'm adulting. I am doing this shit. I didn't get this far. I didn't think that I'd have the money for this, and then I have extra money that I can do other things with.
I really thought I'd be homeless by now.
Right? I didn't even think I'd make it. I was like, I'm clearly gonna die before I get there.
Clearly, I'm gonna live on the streets selling thumbnail sketches of strangers. I don't hitchhiking. I don't have a plan.
Hey, you could do that later. That could be your retirement, man. Like that sounds glorious, actually, in a lot of ways.
I mean, you know, Gabe and I were actually, when we were walking around Jiminy Peak, he and I were having this conversation about how cool it would be to hitchhike just voluntarily across the country. Not like because we don't have the means to drive, but just like out of curiosity, what kind of people we meet, where we ended up, you know, all that. I was like, maybe I'll save this idea for Europe.
Yeah.
I feel like United States is not the place to hitchhike. It's not.
No,
I don't want to have to be on my guard all the time.
my aunt actually did that. It's one of her favorite things to talk about is how, so she went there, beautiful woman, even
Who was it? I'm sorry, you cut out.
my aunt.
Okay.
My aunt, I call her Aunt Bubba or Aunt Barb, but it's by Nikki. But yeah, so my Barb, she went to Europe and actually hitchhiked across it, and actually because I think she was beautiful and because of a friend that was a little more risque with how she expressed herself with men. Let's just put it that way. They got gifted a car in Europe. They met like this tycoony kind of guy who was like, yeah, you know, you can just borrow my car, you know, just take her. And they were given a car too. And he's like, yeah, I'll meet you there. Like, cause you know, everything is like a right away or like close. So he was like, yeah, I'll pick up the car. Like when you get here, you just have my car. But yeah, Europe would definitely be the place.
You know, this might be a little arrogant, but I do think just through like the tattoo art network that like we're kind of privy to in our community, I do think that like I could just land in Europe with a backpack and be okay. Like
Yep.
I feel like just through the network of artists, like be it artists or tattooers or even other collectors, like I feel like with a backpack, minimal equipment, like I feel like I could roll around all over Europe and
I don't think that's
just
arrogant.
explore. I
think
just feel
you
like it'd be fine. I feel like I'm resourceful, but like also like the friend network and how like everybody knows another artist in another community who's down to have a guest artist. And like a lot of places already have like, you know, if artists don't have like guest rooms set up, some studios have guest rooms. And
Yep.
I just feel like I feel like all I got to do is just like take the leap and go over there and be like, nah, I'll come back to the United States when I feel like it.
Yep. No, I mean, I the circus in us. Like my boyfriend, I'm having trouble with him a little bit in that vein, just simply because a lot of the reasons why he is what he is, it's about defensiveness. It's about guarding himself and being betrayed by his environment in a lot of ways. So I'm like, we're definitely good for each other. We definitely help each other a lot, break outside of our boxes. But he's always like lecturing me. He's like, you don't know what could happen. You don't. And I was like, and neither do fucking you, dude. Like the thing of it is you're fearing something that yes, could happen, could also be amazing. And
there are so many times where I'll be like, I know I'm getting myself in a slightly sketchy situation, but it's like, I'll look around and it'll be like, universe is telling me not today. Proceed. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I know everything. I know the writing's on the wall that this is a sketchy situation, but universe is telling me it's going to be all right. Like today's not the day. Today, like it's going to be all right. And sometimes I just have that faith and I discover cool things. I discover cool people. Like
dude, you're a window, you're not a brick.
Yeah, that's
what it is. You're like, no, I see your side of this. It's fine. You don't see
like today's not my day. Like even though I know situations are sketchy or dangerous or like even when I'm just exploring in the woods, I'd be like, that looks a little sketchy, but like today's not my day. Proceed.
Well, not only that, but like how else am I gonna make art? Like if I don't take the leap that other people are not willing to take, what the fuck am I gonna have to comment on? I'm not cool with just live, laugh, love all the time. Like, so I'm not gonna have kitschy artwork. I want things that have grit. I want things that have commentary. I want things that are rich and that show that I went down a dark alley once in my life and I've come back to tell the day. Like, you know?
Oh, they said this couldn't be tattooed. Oh, they said that you can't tattoo that way. That's not. oh,
Yeah,
watch this.
exactly. It's like Neil Gaiman says, like the gatekeepers are leaving gates, and there's whole new rules, and beautiful thing about being a creative is that sometimes there are no rules, and you get to go beyond what most people would think, and the boundaries of this thing, and there's nobody to say you can't. There's no rules yet, so you get to explore them, and and at the very least making them for yourself.
Mhm.
I feel like at this point it's more about, like, that's why we cast, right? And that's why we story tell. I'm not trying to tell people don't walk down the alleyway. I'm trying to tell you this is what happened to me when I walked down the alleyway, and this is what happened to this person that I met, and I had a really good experience. What they told me happened when they walked down the alleyway. So now use information.
Mhm.
Go do what you think is best for you and what you think, but don't uh take away from the fact that you are walking down a dark alleyway. Know what you're doing, be present, know the situation. That's it. Be smart. That's it. And that's what being smart is, right? Your tools, you have these
Calculated
tools.
risks. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not flying through willy-nilly, but there's a it's gonna be all right. Let's go.
Yeah.
Just like general life advice, just be brave sometimes. Like one of my things for the last several months, I mean, I do have my favorite go-to places that I Uber Eats from, but at least 3 days a week, I want to try something new, either a new restaurant or like a new dish from one of my favorite restaurants. And it's just a tiny little way that I get to explore and like open things up a little bit. And what's the worst that can happen? I don't order from that place again. But like, it's just really cool to like just share that little bit with clients and like let them know like you can explore, you can adventure, like life can be mundane, but there are little ways to try things new, and there are like you can just little things. And just like as an artist, there's like little tricks that we can try. Like we don't have to jump totally off the deep end. We can just try one or two new little tricks at a time, but that equals growth and
Yep.
that forward momentum. As long as there's not a backslide, like you can stand still for a moment, don't stand still too long.
Mhm.
But like don't backslide, keep moving forward. I think that's what frustrates me about the artists that I was talking about earlier. It's the backslide. It's not even the standstill, it's the backslide. Like keep moving forward, keep learning new tricks. And as you learn new tricks, share the ones that you already know. I find that like anytime I'm standing in a circle of artists, like when we had like moments of downtime where we could congregate, like there were just golden conversations going on all over last week.
Yes.
And I'd creep in on some of them with my camera, but other times I'd like come up and actually be a part of the conversations. But just to hear that knowledge just casually being shared with one another, there was a lot of like business advice that I heard, you especially, I heard a lot of people sharing with one another, as well as like just different art advice and different like, and it's just
That's
nice
what I
to
love
see.
about Paradise, because every
it's nice.
time it's that kind of gathering.
Yeah, it's nice to see that, like, as intimidated as some of the younger artists that were there, as intimidated as they were, it was really cool for them to see like how much community there really is. And like, if you came from a small town and the artists you work with are douchebags, like that's not the real world. Like keep working hard because it's a pretty rad community. Once you break through and you actually like and going to conventions and gatherings like this is the best way. Like that's how we all kind of become familiar with one another face to face. We see each other's names on Instagram and Facebook, but like that community is when we actually get to see each other and like share those little tidbits. And
and you'll never know what it means, because people get beaten down quite a lot. Like one of the dark alleyways that I went down was dating somebody. All of my friends were like, dude, why are you this person? And I just saw somebody that needed me. Like I knew it wasn't gonna be forever. I knew but I knew this person needed me. What a lot of people don't understand about, like, when you're taking the route at all of being a healer or being somebody who is a window or is something like that. A window is not as strong as a brick. It can get broken a lot easier.
Oh,
And
that's a good point. You got to have that structure above and on the sides and below. It's getting so deep. We need
It
to delve
is,
into
it
this
is.
further.
I'm
We
telling
are
you, it's
we're
a- yeah,
approaching we're approaching 3 o'clock, and Jordan's getting antsy because he's got a
Okay.
4 o'clock appointment
Well,
today.
I'll
So,
wrap
but
it.
this
It's-
has been a fantastic conversation, and I would love to have you on again. And I definitely look forward to joining you on your show. I can't think of the day right now. Do you have the day off top of your head that I'm joining you?
Yeah, next Monday, is it the 18th or 19th? I think it's I want to say that's the 19th, but
The 18th. Yeah.
the 18th. All
Monday
right.
the 18th.
Yeah, I don't know.
So then you can pick my brain about my lack of apprenticeship.
Okay. I love that. I'm excited about that. Those are the best, and they're honestly the best, I think. But yeah, just for everybody, if you're gonna take wounded animals, you have to be willing to get bit, and you have to understand that you will get bit a little bit. But it's about kind of understanding that not bites are that bad, and knowing what your own tolerance is.
Well, and part of rehabilitating a wounded animal is knowing when to set them free.
Yes, exactly. And that also I knew, and he's a much different person, and I feel like he needed that gift of love being given to him, because he really hadn't had any of that before. So I'm happy to be a part of that experience. I think that's why I do all of it. It's all about just turning it up, man, and giving that light. And everyone is like that. So Jordan, I want to let you go. I don't want to ramble, because I could ramble on and on. We could go another 3 hours.
Oh, you're all right. You're all right. But thank you.
Yeah, man. I appreciate your time. It's been really cool.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Oh yeah, totally. Well,
All right, lady. Well, would you like to throw your Instagram handles and stuff out? Tell everybody about your show real quick, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure. Instagram, the podcast is at _apprenticeship_diaries. And I'm at A Nicholls Tattoos is my Instagram. And then I also have one that is Beyond the Pale Art Studio. I also do new modeling as well, which is Beyond the Pale Tattoo. And seeing my naked body, I don't care. That's why I did it. But I'm not modeling, so if you're looking to work with me, I'm kind of benching that for the minute. So go and look if you'd like. But yeah. And then as far as podcasts, pretty much any typical place that you podcasts we're available. So yeah. Yeah, I'm out there.
Nice.
Awesome, lady. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for taking your time, taking time out and joining us today. I feel like we're going to be spending a lot of time sharing helpful information about our tech and stuff. So
Yep.
I
I'm
look forward to
excited
talking
about
to you a
that.
little bit more. And if I don't talk to you before, then I'll talk to you Monday.
Sounds
Awesome.
great.
All right,
have a great
everybody.
day, guys.
Thanks again.
Thanks for
Amy.
joining us this week. We will be back next Thursday. We'll have some rad stuff lined up for you. Okay.
Bye.